and let us know when we're audio live, Jay.
Audio should be live now.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were about to say.
Good evening. Woo. Yep. All right. Screens just switched. That's good. So far, so good. Drawings are. We got some drawings tomorrow night, Casey. Reaper Miniatures giveaways.
Excellent. I'm off on Friday, so maybe I can catch you into the show tomorrow night.
Well, the good thing is there's so much going on every day, and multiple giveaways during every stream. It's good. It's good. We've got it all ready to go. So excited.
Yep. Yeah, I'm very excited. My tournament is down to the final prep stages.
Good, and plus there's a bonus. You're playing in the game Sunday morning.
Yeah, he threw me in a game Sunday morning, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And then Mike is playing in one of my tournament tables. I forget if it's Friday or Saturday.
It's Friday. I had to check it to make sure.
Oh, he's going to be on the first running. That's going to be a little experimental, Mike. Yeah. Mike ended up with the Cleric of Foltus, if I remember correctly.
Oh.
For his regenerated character.
So if I go down first, the group's screwed.
Well, if you do die, I want your dying words to be to walk in the light. One must first die in the darkness.
I'm going to the light.
There you go.
What's up, Dale? Asher's playing with you, Casey. Dale,
oh yeah?
Yeah, he's in the game. He's in that game too.
Oh, I don't think I had put 2 and 2 together for that.
Yeah. Drawings are tomorrow night, Alderon. Drawings definitely tomorrow night. Reaper Miniatures minis giveaways from a great sponsor. So, got a treat for you. Got some living Greyhawk gentlemen from another continent, halfway across the world, which is really cool. Really appreciate you all being on. Oh yeah,
thanks for having us.
Oh yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Asher got Tim's Barbarian Cleric for. Good, we're good.
All right, so you guys, we can chat here.
Yeah!
The guys down under, it's early. It's Thursday. It's about 10 a.m. their time. So thanks especially for coming on during what should be, you should be at work, I presume. I think, Bruce, you had mentioned you were on break from school.
Yeah,
but Mark and Dean, I don't know what you guys do for a living. So
yeah, I was going to ask.
So I'm a project manager, and yeah, I've just taken the morning off. I've done my stand-up meeting and got my people doing what they're meant to, and then I'm free to chat to you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm an Australian public servant, which means I work for the government, which means I can take time off as long as I let people know.
Ooh.
Nice.
Beautiful.
And I'm working from home anyway, which we have been for 6 months in this part of the country.
Yeah, same here. I've been home probably now 6.5 months.
Yeah, that's good, but you miss your workmates.
Especially where I am in Melbourne, we're currently in lockdown, so we're not allowed out of the house except for 5 specific reasons.
Wow.
And yeah, so cafes aren't open. We can go to the supermarket. Gyms aren't open. So yeah, it's good to be on and chat to some new people for our own mental health.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's a great point. We don't always talk about the social aspect of gaming here, but Living Greyhawk brought hundreds, if not thousands, of people together with shared experiences across the world. You guys are literally on the other side of the planet from me in Boston. and yet here we are talking about the same thing.
For me, living Greyhawk and Perrenland actually brought me back into gaming. I just moved a couple of years from Tasmania to
Streamlabs
state,
connected.
and I read in a magazine about this living Greyhawk thing and looked into it and caught up with a local group in Melbourne, and that's where I've got my current gaming group. It's been going 20 years.
Nice.
It's awesome.
It's been good for us. I mean, Bruce and Dean and I met through Living Greyhawk, and we've maintained that friendship ever since, which has been fantastic. We've got other friends. We have a regular gaming gathering online with, about a 4,000 kilometre dispersal between the various participants.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just been fantastic. Really good.
It's great because we play all together at least every 2 weeks, don't we, Mark? Dean?
That's awesome.
You know, and one of those is, guess what? The Greyhawk game. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Where's that game set?
It's currently set in the Shieldlands.
Oh,
Would you believe?
That's where my next
there-
campaign will be. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, so I'm actually running that game at the moment, and yeah.
What edition?
Shieldlands.
It's been really good. It's interesting for me because I was a triad, I never actually played any Living Greyhawk apart from a couple of playthroughs. I was a writer and a GM and a coordinator.
Wow.
So it's really interesting for me to actually experience Greyhawk as a player for once.
I think someone asked what edition. We're doing it in 5e. So, which for me is... Sorry?
Post wars? Fighting the Iusians kind of thing? Or
Yeah, I think we're pretty much...
It's in the Living Greyhawk period, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So 591.
What year are you using?
591.
So right
The
after.
Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, probably Gary's book. Gary
Yeah.
Holding. Yeah, very nice.
Talking 577.
Yes, some of us are well ahead. Some of us are stuck in those early. I mean, just the great thing is it's all over the place. Wow, I've not been able to get into 5e and feel alone. Sure, come on, you know my thoughts on it. So, in fact, I'm hoping Anna and Will, who are on here, will agree with that. When you see our episode in the Big Bad coming up in a couple of weeks, you'll understand.
The trailer for that was pretty good. Jay recently got to partake in a 5e tournament.
Yeah, a D&D game show, and Anna and Will, one of the other channels Will was on too. It was pretty cool. So
you guys are playing 1E, are you?
1E, 2E with custom rules for me.
It's mostly the custom rules at this point. Jay has replaced so much of the chassis from AD&D that he doesn't even realize how much he's replaced of that chassis.
Yeah.
Anna calls it what? Anna calls it 2.75.
Yeah, it's like 2.75 or your private third edition. So,
No,
yeah,
it's call it 1 point
is
J.
perfect. Yeah, no, but 2.75 is I think perfect. Just like Pathfinder is 3.75. So
Streamlabs isn't connecting, so nothing I can do at this point.
Mark, you said you never really got to play much during Living Greyhawk. Were you year 0, year 1 triad, or?
Yes, I became involved before the campaign actually kicked off.
Excellent, because we've only talked to a handful of people from year 0.
yeah, that's
But Bruce was pretty early as well, really.
I was not year 0. No. Mark was before me. So, Mark, you've got that honour, mate. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I came in at the very start of year 1. Yeah, very start of year 1.
Good evening, everyone. Look at that timing. Got a nice raid coming in from Blue Box, too. Thank you, John and Evie and the whole crew over at Blue Box. Really appreciate you coming in and watching tonight. And, of course, the ever-mysterious Tim was hanging over there, too. So, what an interesting gang we have tonight. Our regulars are, the fantastic blogger Greyhawk Mike Bridges and Anna Meyer, the fantastic, wonderful cartographer and gamer, and the legend of all legends, Leonard Lakofka, has joined us, along with the special guests we always have during these wonderful Living Greyhawk discussions, Casey Brown. But we have 3 new gentlemen on tonight, all from, and it's Thursday where they live, all from Australia. And it is a wonderful thing to have you on tonight. Thank you so very much. So let's start with the 3 gentlemen named Mark Summers, Dean Bailey, and Bruce Paris. Please, everyone, say welcome to them all. And we'll go one at a time. We'll go clockwise. So, Mark, why don't you introduce yourself? Thank you, and welcome.
Yeah, hi. I'm Mark Summers. I was originally a tribe member for Perrenland, and then around about 596 was the year that the split happened, and I became the tribe member for Ratik. And then I got roped into being the NMR regional coordinator as well. And yeah, I live in Canberra, Australia. So for those who don't know Australia, that's the nation's capital, so we get blamed for everything. So I'll take that on for the guys tonight as well.
It's a pleasure. And you were a meta regional coordinator too. So
yes, absolutely.
That is so. We've only ever had one other on the show, and that was Casey's friend who lives there as well, or does he live in New Zealand? I always get that.
Oh, he's in Korea.
Oh, he's in Korea. I'm sorry.
Yeah, same time zone.
Brit.
Yeah.
So we have. So this will be an interesting discussion there as well. Thank you for coming on, Dean. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm Dean Bailey. I was what we called a council member for Ratik and Perrenland. So we had a council that sat under the triads and were involved with developing the organisations and a lot of the flavour and the background, as well as being the writing pool. So yes, I probably got involved around year 1 as a player and got to know the people. And I live in Melbourne, Australia, which is the southernmost state of Australia that's on the mainland, so not including the little island of Tassie.
Thank you, and I hate to ask this question, but Canadian Ancient Gamer asked it. Does it snow anywhere in Australia?
It does snow.
There you go.
And it just so happens where I live in Sunbury, we had snow twice this year for the first time since I moved to the town that I'm living in, which has been 21 years. So mostly up in the hills and the mountains, but every now and again we do get it further south. And
okay, we get a little bit in Canberra as well, but it rarely stays on the ground for very long. All you get is the cold and none of the fun.
Yeah. that is fun is we get less and less where I live every year, it seems, but I could do without shoveling 2 feet of snow, trust me. I mean, Casey still
get 2 feet of snow here.
I still get excited, but the older I get, the less excited I get.
I've had 45 years of it. I've had enough snow.
Yeah, I can from the wonders of Sweden. And by the way, Skagit did a nice cheer, fellow Swede, and Skagit's game is filling up nicely for Virtual Greyhawk Con as well. And Bruce Paris. Bruce, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks, Jay. Bruce Paris is my name. I was the one of the triads. I was triad point of contact for Perrenland from 2001 to 2008, and I came on board probably about 6 months after Mark. Mark was in year 0. Like I said, I missed year 0, and I came on board. Yeah, probably started 2001. Very enjoyable time. Yeah, so much to talk about. Lots of writing, lots of reviewing. Yeah, it was a great time and great time to meet new people. I live in Cairns, which is in far north Queensland. So I am the absolute opposite end of the country to Dean and Mark. It's currently sitting at around about 32, 33 degrees here. And you can see the background behind me is pretty much where I live. And it's great. Life's great. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
And that was 32 degrees centigrade, not Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So,
That
it
will
No,
be
it's
like-
like it's
Yeah,
cold.
yeah,
Yeah.
late
Yeah, it'd be a
spring
bit
then.
chilly to go in that water
Yeah.
behind me.
It'll be like 90 degrees,
32
something like that. I
Fahrenheit,
think.
yeah.
I think about just over 90. I think in
Yeah.
in
Can I ask an
Fahrenheit.
obvious question? Maybe
Sure.
not obvious to me.
Sure, Len. Yeah.
Perrenland and Ratik are miles and miles and miles
Good
away from
point.
each other.
Yeah.
Well, why are they associated?
That's a good point.
Because we were given Ratik. Basically, so I guess one of the issues that a lot of Australian players had at the time is that you really could not cross regional boundaries to play other games. You were limited to Perrenland pretty much, unless some very kind international traveller brought a game along to a convention and allowed you to play it. So somewhere in the decision-making process, the Circle decided that they would split things up. Ratik had become dormant, so we basically got handed it. And then there was this real patchwork of which of the states who could do which. So I'm in the ACT. It's a very small enclave, really stuck in the middle of New South Wales. And so ACT became Ratik, New South Wales remained Perrenland.
State Perrenland, yeah.
Yeah, we picked up Hawaii for some reason.
Okay.
So one of my fellow tribe members for a while, I think it was Mark Cleveland, was based in Hawaii. And then another guy who's not long today, James Dempsey, he was my fellow tribe member for a while. And then we had Victoria came in as well. I think we might have even had Singapore, but we didn't get very many players from there. And I'm trying to remember where New Zealand fell, because initially Perrenland was Australia.
I think New Zealand stayed with Perrenland. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It was a weird bit of business at the very start of the campaign. Basically, Perrenland ranged from New Zealand to Australia to Singapore, and it might have even been, I think, even Korea in there at some stage as well. It was a huge swathe of area to cover.
In fact, our nearest border was Hawaii. That was where we had to travel if we wanted to do interregional games. So
7 hours.
And for Lynn in
8
the
or 9,
audience that's not as familiar, so during Living Greyhawk, regions of Earth were assigned to regions of Earth.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the Bandit Kingdoms were Texas and Oklahoma here in the United States, but Louisiana was the Yeomanry. So there was no matching, because obviously the Bandit Kingdoms and Yeomanry are not next door to each other, on the Darlene map. So, Mark, how did Australia get assigned Perrenland? Were you part of that at all? We've had Eric Mona on and others.
Perrenland was already assigned. So the New Zealand guys were probably engaged earlier than I. So when I came on board, and funnily enough, I came on board because I was part of the RPGA club's competition.
Ah, okay.
And for that year, you got points for the most involvement of your club in Greyhawk. It was a way to promote engagement. So
Perrenland was named after a player in Gygax's game in Lake Geneva. You know that, right?
Who was it?
Yeah.
Jeff Perrin, maybe?
Jeff Perrin, yeah.
Oh,
I don't
cool.
remember the first name, but
Yeah.
I thought Jeff Perrin had passed away. I could be wrong.
Think so.
That's
I'm
many,
not
many,
sure, but
many years ago.
I think he was ill some years ago, but I can't remember exactly what happened.
Both places are cool, though. I mean, really.
And I know that Ratik was originally assigned to Hawaii at the start of the campaign, but had low play numbers due to the small geographic area and population, really, of Hawaii. So then for a couple of years, it became a inactive core region.
That's right. Yes.
And then it rejoined Ratik when you guys took over Ratik. And I'm cheating. I'm looking at the wiki. Ratik was Hawaii, Japan, New South Wales, Victoria, ACT, Tasmania, and South Island. From October of 2006 to the end of the campaign. So that at least gave that region of the world the ability to play in multiple regions, which without having to fly to Hawaii, which but
look, I think
the
upside of that probably was a lot more player focus on the region. There was a little bit of resentment, I think, that you had correspondence with internationally with other LG players, and our Perrenland players were seeing that if they could cross a border and play different games, and that caused a little bit of upset. But also, I think because we were just the one region, there was a lot of player focus on Perrenland itself, and that fed into a lot of player engagement.
The other advantage we had just being the one region is that, people didn't use up all their time units. So, if you remember, you had 52 time units and each game took so many time units. And so, we had a very rich meta organization group, a number of meta organizations, which took time units to join and to advance. And people had the spare time units to actually invest in those meta organizations and take a bit of ownership. So I think that was a not good positive of only being one region.
Two questions.
I agree with you.
Two questions, because Nixel kind of, like me, missed the whole Living Greyhawk era, so we may have to go to basics here. What is a triad exactly? Who wants to take that up? And what is a time unit?
I'll answer the triad question.
Sure.
So for each actual game region, Perrenland being one, being another, you had 3 triad members. So they were responsible for coordinating the development of the region, liaising through the broader meta-regional coordinator. So the meta-region was a collection of different geographical regions within the Greyhawk world, which all aligned into a particular area. So we were Iowa's border states, was Perrenland initially. The triad answered to the meta-regional coordinator and then up to the circle. And we reviewed adventures, we wrote adventures as well, but we had to coordinate basically the development of the realm, bit of website management. And it was a lot of fun. And as you can see, Bruce and I still maintain contact.
That's a great thing. That's a great thing. Absolutely wonderful. So time units, who wants to handle that?
So time units were basically play opportunities. Each character started with 52 time units at reset the 1st of January. So basically 52 weeks of adventuring. And every adventure you played that was in your home region cost you 1 time unit. Every core adventure or out of region adventure, if you were lucky enough, would cost you 2 time units. And later when meta regions came in, any meta region adventure cost you 1 time unit. And when you ran out of time units, then that character basically retired for the year, and any other adventuring opportunities, you used a secondary character. So it was a way of making sure each character, I suppose, had the same amount of play opportunity as everyone else.
And it helped stop some of the power inflation. They quickly realized, I think adventures were too cheap. I think adventurers had too many adventures in Living Greyhawk, but obviously you want people to play as much as they want to play. You want to keep the players happy. But early on, you had PCs reaching 6th, 7th level in the first year of their campaign, maybe even 8th. And then reaching 12th, 13th, and 14th levels. I think I do the math in my book, $9.95 on Amazon, about how fast a PC could advance. And you could have a 14th level PC after 2 years of playing. Me, as a semi-old schooler, I think that's way too fast. I think it should take a long time for a character to get to 14th level. So PCs wouldn't retire until about 18th level in year 3. And then I think they lowered that to 16th level in year 3 and year 4, because they just realized that writing 3rd edition adventures for average party level 16 and 17 and 18 was a nightmare. As someone who's done it, a nightmare. I
did it.
I hate adventuring at that level.
If I could go back in time and be in charge, or tell Eric Mona, I'd be like, PC should retire at 9th level and then have special adventuring opportunities like once or twice a year after that, because the power creep just got so insane. And people could always make a second PC, as Dean said, you could play that PC. So it's not like you stopped playing. It's just you had to tell that character, you're done. You've gone out and killed enough goblins for the year. Chill out.
Yeah, that power curve was a real killer for us after a while. initially the guidance that we got as triads and writers was that the experience point and gold limits were upper limits. And so we wrote that sometimes you wouldn't reach that at all with Perrenland Adventures. And then once we started getting the core adventures, which were, I guess, aimed at the power level that was predominant in the States, well, poor old Aussie and New Zealand players were seriously underpowered initially, and core games and the like, and adjustables when they came out were just destroying them. So we had to keep up, which was a bit of a shame, because then everything had to be written well. Every adventure has to hit the cap. And there were expectations, but we must get a magical item out of this adventure. The first adventure I wrote, the big reward was a dog. So, you know, I think I look back, I think I maybe gave out a masterwork weapon, maybe, but probably not.
Well, we've talked about how year one in Living Greyhawk was very low on the treasure, just campaign wide. So it sounds like that was the same way there for you guys.
Absolutely. We were very focused on the story and character, I think. And that was great for us. But it was also, and Bruce will probably be able to talk to this as well, it took a very long time for Australian adventures to be approved. We're talking 6 months or more for the first couple of adventures. So we came very close to losing the Australian contingent out of Living Greyhawk just because of that. So in perfect Australian style, we just ignored the rules and ran the adventures anyway.
Awesome. Hold that thought for 1 minute, because Len's got like 5 minutes before he has to depart. So in his normal time. Len, a real quick update before I know you got to go. Where are we on the tarot deck contest?
I think that was it Daniel Bog? Daniel, something Daniel, yeah. He's going to win because there was only 2 people who submitted.
Okay.
And I corralled him down. He kept trying to take cards away, and he tried to take a card and have it do something in the future. And I said, no. None of that's up. So
Len slapped.
I'll take care of him. I'll give him some of those campaign coins I showed earlier.
Awesome. Daniel Boggs, that's it. Alderon puts Daniel Boggs. There you go. So looks like you're going to be the winner, and we'll probably get that once it's finalized, typed and all. We'll get that out and get it out to everyone. Maybe we could get that out of, what do you think, Len? Saturday Sunday night during the SC Experts, we could post it up.
Well, we could. We're certainly at loggerheads on a number of the cards. We agree that I agree that 2 of the 7 are as written. And so that leaves 5 cards that we're still playing around with.
Awesome. The good thing is that, during that night, also during that night, Casey is going to share his winner from his contest, from his tournament as well. So it's going to be that's going to be a great wrap-up show to Greyhawk Con. Plus, everyone, you can see I'm scrolling a lot of highlighted streams below me. A lot of them. So just take a look at them if you're interested. Like I said, if you want to register, still you can. But the highlighted streams are all on Twitch, so you can watch them at your pleasure. And Len, as always, do you have any other questions for the Perrenland Ratik gentleman before you have to depart? I know you got some stuff in Ratik, Len.
Well, the last thing I did in Ratik was in the year 577 because I'm a disbeliever in the Greyhawk Wars.
Yeah, understood. Yeah.
Well, Gygax lost the company, and you don't want to listen to that crap anymore. But
it's okay.
But it was.
I'm going to ask a question in reverse to the 3 gentlemen here. Have any of you ever played Bone Hill or Assassin's Knot or Deep Dwarven Delve?
Absolutely. Assassin's Knot's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Right back in the day, probably when it was released.
Well, there's L4 and L5 out there too. If you
absolutely, Len. Yeah. I think I probably played it back in 83. Was that when it was released? 82, 83?
Yep.
No, I think it's
81. No, Assassin's Knot, I think it was either 81, 82, or 83. I don't have one.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Bruce, just that old.
We're all that old, man.
I am that old.
All of us. I'm not as gray. I'm starting to get a hair of gray here, and it's scaring me. And I don't want to dye it, but yeah, a little bit here. So
you have years to catch up with.
So, Len, hang out a little bit, asking our question if you feel like it. I know you have to drop shortly, but I wanted to get that in there. So, go back to that original question that Mark was discussing. Sorry for the interruption. And that was hopefully, do we?
Yeah,
remember
I think I might pick up from Mark there,
Okay.
Jay.
Sure, fair enough.
Yeah, it was a really interesting time in the early days. Yeah, as Mark said, it seemed to take ages and ages, and I don't know why. I don't know, the reasons behind it, but I think, Mark, it was probably about a 10-month period where we didn't really hear much at all. We had submitted adventures to be approved by WotC, and they were sort of all in there. And we just didn't really sort of hear anything. So we were just still playing them behind the scenes and everything. But really weird things happened. Like I actually wrote a module called Swamp Things originally for Perrenland, and it went in for approval as a Perrenland adventure. And then next thing I got a email. I think it was an email. I think it was doing emails even then, an email saying, "Oh, hey, it's not going to be a Perrenland adventure. It's going to be a core." And so I had to pretty much rewrite Swamp Things as a Greyhawk city adventure, and set it, I think, in the Cairn Hills or somewhere like that. And I think it came out as Core 108 or something like that. It was one of the
kidding.
last.
I've never heard of them doing that.
They upped
One
it.
of the last of the year one. I know, bizarre. Yeah.
Who sent you the email saying that was happening? Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh my God. I think it could have been Eric Mona.
Okay.
Actually.
Okay.
It would have been Eric back in the first year, I think.
Right,
Yeah,
because we learned from Jason Bullman that he didn't actually become the Circle member until
he was
year
much
2,
later,
right? They didn't
Casey.
actually have the
Yeah.
regional Circle association, I think, until year
Good, Mike.
2.
No. So I think it was,
Michael,
Eric. Yeah, and so that was quite bizarre. So weirdly, we kind of lost one of our modules, one of our scenarios in year 1 because it got taken to a core. Maybe they were short on cores. I don't know the reason why, but anyway, there you go. That's the story behind that. But we didn't. I don't think, Mark, we got any of our. I don't think we were playing any of our year 1 adventures officially until about 2002 or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I can remember that. So we had a convention down here in Canberra. We played I can't remember what the first core adventure was. It was the introduction to Living Greyhawk. And there was very much a lot of interest in it.
Is that festival night?
Yeah, it might have been.
With the werewolf and the bonfire and the Burning Man?
No, I think it was something that predated that as well. It was really was the very first adventure. And then everybody in Canberra decided, well, we're going to form a monthly gathering and we're going to play Living Greyhawk, which was fantastic. And then a week out from that, we didn't have a backup adventure because nothing had come out. So,
oh man,
I wrote the first Perrenland adventure in about 2 nights. And I was
Pigtails, wasn't it? It was Pigtails, Mark.
Pigtails, yeah, absolutely. I just had this flash of inspiration. I was lucky. When the muse hits, I'm sure as everyone knows, it just takes hold. And so I got that out, somehow got it play tested, and then we had our first adventure. And then we were recruiting other writers. It was interesting because at that time you got paid for writing Greyhawk adventures.
Oh yeah, that was the first couple of years, and then they changed.
Yeah,
years 1 and 2, they paid for the regionals.
Yeah.
So Casey has a theory. Go ahead, Casey.
Oh God, you want me to get into this real quick?
Just for for 15 seconds.
Okay, short version. I think Greyhawk is screwed because of Living Greyhawk intellectual property issues. Wizards of the Coast failed to pay authors, They let us use their IP with their permission without paying us, which means they were not works for hire, which means that IP is now publicly available to anyone who's willing to take the risk and fight them in court. So anyone who has a law degree can research that further, but that's my theory as to why we've not seen Greyhawk go DM's Guild, because if they write an adventure that steps on the plot from a Living Greyhawk adventure, the author of that can come after them and say, like, well, where are my royalties? So there's 1,000 landmines. If they write anything in the BK and there's a red dragon, I'm going to go, if they write something in Perrenland,
they will too.
I want my cheese.
It's interesting because I don't think, even though they pay people, from my point of view, people were not writing for the money. They were definitely writing for
well, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But from a legal point.
If anything that I wrote suddenly appeared in a Greyhawk, a current adventure, I'd just be happy that I contributed. But I can see how other people would want to have their credit.
Yeah.
Well, your lawyer would be mad.
I know I came into this late, but I think I know what Casey's talking about. I mean, like even J.K. Rowling has people sue her for, having similar stories.
The fan fiction writers, come after her. Yeah, I think it's a whole mess.
Book that some fan wrote a parallel story earlier or something similar. Yeah.
For the audience, so they paid $50 US, I believe, for regional adventures in year 1 and 2, and they paid $100 US for core adventures, I think, throughout the entire campaign. So the core adventures are definitely owned by Wizards of the Coast. They were works for hire, but years 3 through 8. Regional adventures were not. The meta regional adventures, and I believe, Mark, you can correct me here, but I don't think those were paid either.
No, I don't believe that they were.
Yeah, so that's like 8 to 10 adventures per region, and there were 30-something regions per year that they didn't pay for. So that's all the intellectual property landmines that are out there for them to step on.
Wow.
Yep, it's pretty terrifying.
So
I'd be interested to see how people view it.
You can blame me. It's my fault I brought it up.
If Wizards, and the last thing I'll say about this, if Wizards were to ask me, a non-lawyer, how to deal with it, I would say you've just got to start offering authors $1. Can we please buy the rights to that adventure you wrote 20 years ago, and we'll give you a credit if we ever publish it or whatever in a Tales from the Yawning Portal or whatever, or we'll throw it up on DM's Guild, and you can have 50% and we have 50%, I pitched Adventure Path to Chris Perkins, the best of Living Greyhawk, the rise of IUs. And I told him, I'll take the very best Living Greyhawk adventures from the meta region. I will convert them to 5th edition and I will publish them as an Adventure Path, but you would have to hire me full time to do that. And he just wasn't interested in that for various reasons. A, he doesn't know who the hell I am. But B, they're not doing anything Greyhawk related.
Yeah. So I know it's a rabbit hole to go down, but I just wanted to. Casey's got a good point, and Britt, who's on the level that Mark was, kind of has some legal opinions on it too. Kind of helped him out with his Bandit Kingdoms because you got sued. Casey got sued doing this, and he fought it off.
It was a DMCA notice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty minor in the grand scheme of things, but I still had to have Wizards' lawyer review the book. Yeah, and clear it, so the DMCA notice would be cleared.
So it's a yeah. Thank you, Dale. Sorry for that. Misspoke on that. So back to Perrenland was how many years, and then Ratik was how many years?
Both regions were obviously ran pretty concurrent towards the end. I think it was 2006, was it?
2008 was the last year. So I think 2001 to 2008. Yeah.
Right. I'm just trying to think when Ratik came in.
I think we were only a couple of years, weren't we, Mark? So
we
about 2006.
So you guys were playing in both at the same time. I'm a little.
Some people were.
Okay.
Yeah, some people. Is for myself, Melbourne, it was a bit hard to cross the border to get into Perrenland. So my Perrenland character basically retired. And I think a lot of people did the same. They had 5, 6, 7 years invested in Perrenland, and then suddenly couldn't play their characters that easily. They could play them as outer regions, but they couldn't be involved in the Perrenland specific plots.
Some people moved their characters to Ratik.
Yeah. And
why? The main question is, I know, is it just because of the other regions that it was open, and why was that major change made? It sounds like Perrenland was going well in that area. Was it to get other?
Perrenland was going fantastically.
So it was other regions they wanted to include, like Hawaii. They wanted to include other places that weren't playing. I'm confused.
I think there was a group in Perrenland who campaigned to get a second region because they wanted to do cross-regional games. They wanted more games to play. And I'm not, Bruce and Mark might be better with the politics behind that, but I think that's essentially what happened.
Absolutely. There were definitely Perrenland players who felt they were missing out a bit. And by that stage, midway through the campaign, obviously they made connections with international players from, mostly from the States, is who we engaged with. And so there were a bunch of players who were seeing their online friends who had all these opportunities that they didn't have, and that didn't sit well with them. And so there was a bit of politicking for that. I don't think we were, I would have been happy to stay with Perrenland, to be honest.
I was the same. Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Dan.
Yeah. I was going to say, the thing I noticed when we moved from Perrenland to Perrenland and Ratik, a lot of the travel stopped. One of the things I loved about living Greyhawk when I started, and of course this was before I had kids, is we would get in a car and we would drive 7 hours to Canberra and play a games day in Canberra, stay the night, and drive home. That's the sort of thing we would do. I'd fly up to Cairns, which is a 4-hour flight. And we would do ReefCon, which was a con that Bruce ran. And that's how I got to meet and know all the Cairns people. There was a lot of traveling going backwards and forwards. And that was good for our local cons because you'd get this influx of interstate travelers. When Ratik came, I felt that traveling stopped a bit, and it might have been because by that time I had my first daughter, so traveling was a little bit restricted for me. But even people who I used to travel with weren't traveling as much.
No, I'd say you're right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And it probably took a little bit of a hit for some people. They had invested a lot into their Perrenland characters, and then all of a sudden they weren't able to really play those characters in the region which they called their home. And it was tricky taking up Ratik as well, because it was a region we had to completely change our mindset. It was a totally different region and flavour. You've gone from Perrenland almost being, Switzerland, really.
Mm-hmm.
Out to, and without much in the way of nobility, very sort of egalitarian kind of society. And then you're in Ratik and you've got nobility and a court and just a quiet change. But we took it on and we had a lot of fun with it, and we shook things up a bit right from the get-go. And I think we managed to get people back into it. But
I would have.
Yeah. Go on.
I was going to say, I would have been I would have liked it to have continued on for another couple of years and see where we ended up. But of course, 3.5 was ending and they were going into 4th edition. Yeah. And that was the end of living Greyhawk.
Well, I think that was the sour thing, wasn't it, Dean? That there was all the switch over to Ratik, and it was pretty clear at some point that a lot of people up in the campaign knew that the campaign only had about another 18 months to run, but switched to Ratik anyway, which I think caught you guys a bit by surprise, didn't it?
Because we put in a lot of work, because Perrenland was such a developed region, because, you know, we had the triad members, and I think our council was about 10 people, all writing up meta regions, writing up histories on the clans. So it was very rich in what we had put together. And when we moved to Ratik, well, those of us who moved to Ratik, especially the players who weren't involved behind the scenes in the creation of all the flavour, I expected the same level of development to have been done to move over to Ratik. And so we had to get a lot of stuff up and running really before the adventures came out, before we really started playing, didn't we, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. We also had to stay true to what had been previously written, and it was really hard. There was not a lot of information. We had to pull stuff out of adventures, and even getting hold of old Ratik Triad, it was nigh on impossible. So it was almost a fresh slate for us. I would say that what it did do is open up writing opportunities for a lot of the younger players who probably felt a bit daunted to put their hands up to write for Perrenland, because all the older writers were still heavily engaged, whereas Ratik being a clean slate for them, they could come in with their ideas. And so I personally saw a lot of, certainly in Canberra, a lot of the younger players really stood up, and that was good. Good to see that enthusiasm and to get them involved, and they did a fantastic job.
So can we get let's start with Perrenland.
Yep.
What was the general story? Was there an antithesis? Was it, like you said, was it a mercenary area? Like, let's get a feel for what was going on early on and through those 6 years that you really concentrated on Perrenland. I mean, everyone, when I think of Perrenland, I think of Shokanth immediately, right? I think of Shokanth and the Forgotten Temple of Thariston. That's my area of knowledge, but I know there's a lot more going on up in that area. So why don't you give us a little insight as to what actually happened during the campaign?
So I think when I came on board, so as I said, I came on board probably 6 months maybe before the official campaign launch. I'd have to check. I've since changed email addresses, so I don't have the history anymore. But the New Zealand cohort, there were a couple of New Zealand guys who'd been quite heavily involved, and they developed, I think they'd identified the clans. Bruce, you can probably see how much of that you...
It was all done by the time I came on board.
Yeah, so we basically, we had the gazetteer, we had that information that there were, the Perrenland was kind of a version of Switzerland with cantons, and that it was a very independent sort of realm. We didn't really focus too much on a lot of the, I guess, the old canon adventures, those key locations. We decided we'd leave that alone. So even things like you could, modern canon pretty much comes from Perrenland.
I think, Mark, just to jump in, I think we were told to leave them alone.
I was about to ask. Because mostly that's what happened.
Yeah. We were told not to touch Shokanth and all of that. Yeah.
Play Greyhawk. Just don't use published Greyhawk.
Yeah.
Yep. So we very much focused on developing the clans was the first thing that we did, and the character of them. And so we came up very early on, just based on the names of places and the fact that we had cantons. This is Switzerland. Okay, cool. So we're going to go with a very Germanic feel to Perrenland. So we started using a kind of a mashup of Dutch and German in our way of naming things. And I think this a funny story from that is our third tribe member, Patrick Williamson, who isn't with us at the moment. He initially was a very loud voice who was very anti this whole Germanic thing, and basically come in and said, "This is all rubbish." And then I actually, because of being the triad, I thought I can't really respond how I would like to, which would involve a lot of foul language. So I teed up one of my friends to say, "Hey, give this guy a kick in the head," which they did. And then Patrick suddenly became involved, and if anyone, he embraced that even more than probably Bruce and myself.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he became quite an enthusiast.
Very.
And it's a shame that we haven't got him here. We kind of lost touch a bit with Patrick. So he's in.
Yeah, we have reached out to him, haven't we, Mark? We've reached out, but I think he's just busy with other life.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was very prolific. If you've ever read a Patrick Williamson adventure, the amount of editing we had to do to trim down his introductions, because he was the master of box text. But he wrote a good story.
And it's not like we were getting paid by the word.
No, we were.
Unlike Len, who got paid by the word back in the day.
Yeah, so
with
Len
Gary.
he talks about dragging things out because he got paid by the word.
Yeah.
Always a fun thing. Yeah.
But it was an interesting balancing act early on, because there was a kind of a division between Australia and New Zealand, because we were, it's not like the modern age where online conversation is quite easy. You were limited to email, and there is enough of a time zone difference that you couldn't easily just get in and chat with people. I think having that face-to-face conversation really helped.
And I think too, Mark, the New Zealand guys, they kind of fell away, didn't they?
They did. They very much. I think they had a very wargaming focus on it, I think. And most of us in Australia had a very strong storytelling focus. So, and that was great, because for Australians, it gave us a lot of creative freedom. And we really put a lot into developing the flavour of the towns, the flavour of the cantons, the clan characteristics, which became a big thing in Perrenland. We started making the 8 clans quite distinctive in their personalities, and then different players would associate their characters with different clans, and you'd have rivalries and you'd have friendships. People got really invested in that, and that was good. That was kind of the reward that we in the Triad and the Council got for the efforts that we were putting in. And I guess we had different areas of focus as well. So I ended up focusing more around Crestable. I know, Bruce, you were more sort of Traft, and
I did Traft and the Rudberg clan. Yeah.
And Patrick took Schwarzenbrunn. So in some ways, we had that kind of division amongst the Triad as well. And then we got some very strong personalities on the council who we had to rein in as well. And then you did have real clan rivalries going on in the writing group as well. So there was a bit of politics involved in being a Triad.
Yeah. Because as a writer, if you wrote something about a clan that someone who was highly invested in that clan didn't think was correct, and no, that's not how that clan would behave, then you well and truly got told about it.
We retconned Band of Kingdoms adventure after I became Triad member, because I was like, this is complete bullshit. This never would have happened. It was clearly a Forgotten Realms Living City adventure, that it had been written for Living City, and then that author clearly pitched it to Living Greyhawk like in year 1 or 2 in the Band of Kingdoms. And when I look at it in year 3 or 4, I'm like, no, that has nothing whatsoever to do with Greyhawk, Rook Roost, or the Band of Kingdoms. So I've exercised it. It's not even in my book.
Wow.
It was, as a Triad, it was very much a handling people was an important skill. At least I think for Bruce and I. Patrick didn't care. He just told us.
Patrick was probably more interested in the writing side and development side, wasn't he, Mark? Yeah, which is great, because everybody has their part to play, and it's good.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, very honest, and a great bloke. We had a really good time, and I've got fond memories of going up to Port Macquarie where he lived and having little writing and playtesting sessions together. It didn't happen often enough because of the distances. I mean, as I said, I think it's probably about 3,000 kilometres between myself and Bruce.
Wow.
Yeah.
At least,
But at least you play tested. Jay has learned from James Jacobs and Jason Bullman, I think,
Yeah.
that things didn't get play
They
tested
just, they rammed it and sent it out. And
Throw it against the wall.
you can tell
for
that.
Dungeon and Dragon magazines and the books they were writing.
I
Yeah.
can
No,
understand
we-
that
we
with
had a-
the deadline.
Yeah. We're a very strong player cohort who were very, very keen on doing play testing, and in some ways it was a badge of honor to be a play tester because you got to shape things to a degree.
And we
Absolutely.
actually listed all of our play testers on the front of the adventures. So, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have an off the
And-
cuff. Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, I have an
Okay.
off the cuff question I have to ask. Canadian Ancient Gamers asking, do any of you know this person? It's from the 90s. There was a website from Australia, Woody's Greyhawk.
Ooh, no.
See, there you go, Canadian. 90s, early 2000s, there was a Woody Greyhawk site, and it was definitely an Aussie site. So,
I
Yeah.
don't remember it.
I know there was a
didn't know.
Hootie's Greyhawk. I remember that one.
Oh, wait, or maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Hootie had the
Hooties?
picture of the Temple of Elemental Evil in the front. That was
Okay.
Hootie, not Woody.
Okay, never
yeah,
mind.
yeah. So I remember Hootie's.
Sorry. No.
All right, no, 0 for 3 there. So you gave it a shot.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
sorry, I
Yep.
had to ask that question. So sorry to interrupt that discussion, but once they scroll up so far, I lose them, especially in my mush brain tonight.
Well,
So
I want to
Speaking-
circle. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
go ahead, Mike.
No, I'm sorry, Casey. I was going to say, speaking of websites, while we were on that track, the only thing I remember about Living Greyhawk Perrenland was the website. I remember it being so gorgeous and well written. And I always thought to myself, I'll come back to reference that. And then it was gone.
Yeah, well, I've noticed that in preparation for this, Bruce sent out the Perrenland Gazetteer, like the internal one of it, and it's pretty much a dump of the website. It's even got the
It is a
old
dump.
image,
It is a dump.
Nice.
So I actually still have that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know I was very highly involved in that website and getting the graphics and the writing and that. And it was interesting looking because I personally, because I've been drafted away to Ratik, hadn't thought to take a copy of the Perrenland website. So it just disappeared. And the same with Ratik. I have nothing left, unfortunately. I've only got a few of my old adventures.
Christoph of the Orth Journal is trying to archive the old Living Greyhawk websites.
Oh, that'd be great. Well, yeah, I'm sure we can get you a copy of
Good.
the Gazetteer that Bruce has got, because it was great reading through that again in preparation for this.
Everyone needs to see that site.
Yeah, I've still got copies of pretty much everything. Yeah,
Beautiful.
I took copies. Yep. So
I will let him
Yes.
know that offer's been made, and we'll get them all connected.
Yeah, I just
Um,
poked him in the
Sure.
Discord. He's going to be mad if. Yeah.
he's going to
Yeah,
do what?
so,
He doesn't usually
made,
miss these.
yeah.
So,
There was
so
a lot of effort got put into that Perrenland website. It really was a major repository of information, and we put a lot of thought into the aesthetics of it as well.
I thought all Living Greyhawk groups were supposed to be like that. There was like Perrenland, and I think Onwall had a pretty good one. And I don't
Hey,
really remember
the
any of the other
BK one,
ones.
we had a little scroller on the bottom that said like "I use loves you now die" and stuff like that. That they had put together in year 2 or 3. I mean, come on, it was height of GeoCities technology.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just gonna say, the web
GeoCities, oh my
technology was not
gosh.
that. Yeah, it was not that easy to build a website back then. You
No,
literally
it
had to
wasn't.
build it yourself.
And
was-
Mike, that's actually a great point because web development the Triads did everything. There was no Wizards of the Coast support. So if one member of the Triad was good at websites, that region had a good website.
Yeah.
Or if a player volunteered their
Yeah.
time, like in the Bandit Kingdoms, we had a gentleman named Dwayne Lawrence, who I think shelled out the $40 a year to do the web hosting and whatever. But he disappeared in year 6, 7, or 8, and no one had the damn passwords.
Yeah,
Only Dwayne did. And I think to this day, we have no idea how to get that stuff archived. But
We
Well,
used
the Perrenland website initially was hosted off a friend of mine who was a Harn World gamer. And so for a long time, it was perrenland.lithia.com because Lithia is obviously the continent for Harn World. So there's an interesting crossover there.
Oh, I always wondered that story. I never knew that one, Mark. There you go. Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Awesome.
that's
Yeah.
great. You guys are learning stuff about yourselves. Can I ask you another quick
Yeah,
digital
yeah.
technology question?
Go for it.
Speaking of old technology, Yahoo groups. we used them very extensively in the campaign and in the Bandit Kingdoms. We did an in-character Yahoo group where people's words would actually have consequences at interactives. Did you guys have online role-playing or use the Yahoo groups?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used Yahoo groups quite extensively for discussions and that. And funnily enough, I had a look the other day, but I've lost my access to the Perrenland Yahoo groups. I don't know if Bruce still have it or whether
it's actually shut down. They sent me an email about maybe about 6 months, a year ago.
They took all the files off of Yahoo groups, so you can still access it as a email server. I actually used it to reach out to triads to be on this show and got several responses. But all the documents and stuff have been destroyed,
which is a shame because, for example, the only reason I did a few maps for cities and the like, and I've only got the PDF versions now. I don't have the campaign cartographer files, which is a shame because a few times along the way I've had discs crash on me, and they often had Living Greyhawk materials on them, and I could never find the backups if I had taken backups, which is a shame because I've lost a lot of stuff.
I'm sorry, I don't have those, Mark. Yeah.
No. Yeah. So, but at least if I wanted to, I could go back and redraw them. But I don't think I'm going to. Somehow. But as I said, I've got PDF versions of Prestable, for example.
Oh, that will be awesome too. Whatever you can spare, that will be great.
Yeah, sure.
Get that data back and back into.
Yeah, it's funny looking at it now. I mean, my own personal cartography skills have improved a lot. I would have made it a lot more organic compared to it was still a bit linear, I feel. But that was the capability of the tools at the time, and also the actual the amount of personal time I had to put into it as well, considering I was writing and editing at the same time.
All right, so
I've still got all the original maps of Traft. I completely mapped out Traft City and detailed it, so I've still got all of those on file.
Yeah, I
sucked at mapping.
So here's a question, an estimate while you were triads or involved. How many hours a week did you spend?
Ooh. Early on, an awful lot.
Look.
It's a second job, probably.
Yeah, pretty much.
Every day you had to be on. Every day.
Okay.
We're in grad student at that time we're not having a real job, so that LG was almost like a job that just didn't pay you.
But you got to remember that I was not only Perrenland triad. I was also writing. I was writing cores for many years as well. So I was on different meta region teams and core teams, and it was crazy there for a few years. It was crazy.
Absolutely. I was single through a lot of the early Living Greyhawk, and thank goodness, because one of them would have had to have given. So it was lucky, really, that my partner and I have been together post Living Greyhawk. I left LG, to be honest, but that's the way it goes.
Good.
I was just myself and my wife, and there's a reason I had the local florist on speed dial.
Yeah, you need to keep Bruce sweet.
Yeah. Every time we went up to Cairns for ReefCon, I'd send flowers to my wife Tracy's work, and it got to the stage where the office ladies, my wife's a teacher, refused to give them to her because she'd had too many. So,
wow. I need to step up my flower game with my wife.
It's a rough week. Going to be a rough weekend for me, as you all probably know, with Greyhawk.
So you need to.
Jay married a saint. I have met Mrs. J. She is a saint for putting up with his addiction to our hobby.
Yes. You're 40, so it's crazy. What?
Can I? Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask. Go ahead, Casey. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Bruce real quick. I think out of all of us here, you had wrote the most core modules. Like I never wrote one. And I've got someone's putting together this database of the Living Greyhawk adventures, trying to add in the blurbs, the level ranges, that kind of thing. Not the actual adventures themselves, because as I remind everyone, that's illegal to share. But so far, I see you for Core 504, Desecrator of the Lord's Tomb.
Oh, yes.
Core 517, Times Tide of Bright Sands. And Core 809, Ruins of Slumber. That's the only 3 right now he's got your name on. I don't know if there's more or not. But could you tell us a little bit about what it was like writing Core Adventures? Because we haven't really heard too much about that on the show before.
I want to say I've read those Sands ones.
Yeah. So, like I said, the first core that I strangely wrote was Swamp Things. That was in year 1. And I didn't write it as part of the core team though. Then I had a couple of years break. I didn't write any cores for a couple of years. And then I think you're right. I think Desecrators of the Lord's Tomb might have been the first core that I came back in on. And I worked with, I think it was Stephen Radney McFarlane on that one. That was for Gen Con, I think about 2004, maybe. Mike Casey, you might know that better than me even, if you've got the numbers there. But yeah, what it was like, it was great. After working with Stephen, the cores were managed by a fellow by the name of Crichton Broadhurst, who operated out of the UK. Crichton was just fantastic to work with. I really cannot, I can't give that guy enough props. Don't know where he is these days.
He's still in the UK doing
does a lot
the
of
Raging Swan Press is his own imprint.
Yeah,
he used to drop into our Thursday night chats, Casey.
Yeah, we would love to have him on the show, but I don't know.
I've tried. I've reached out
exactly.
multiple
That's what
times.
I said. You tried, yeah.
So you've obviously reached out and he hasn't returned. But look, he was great to work with. He and I, and there was one other fellow, and I can't think of his name now. We put together those Bright Sands series. Pretty much, we organised the story, the whole story that spanned, I think, about three years worth of core modules. I mean, I didn't write them all, and neither did he. You know, we farmed the stories out to different people. That's what used to happen. We would, we knew sort of where that was going to go. That Rary the Trader story, or continuation of the Rary the Trader story, and then we basically put our hands up and said, "Oh well, I'll write that one. Crichton would write that one. Somebody else would write another one," and that went on for about 3 years, I think, 3 or 4 years. It might have even been 4 years, and it ended in that. I think it was even the actual last 3 cores, I think, were the Bright Sands finales. I'm just trying to remember now, yeah, it was amazing to work with those people. I also wrote Return to the Caverns of Sokanth. I actually got to work a little bit with, just by email, with Gary Gygax on
Wow.
that. And just some backwards and forwards emails, and wanted to get his blessing. And
that was a core? That was a core?
That was a core. Yeah, it was a Gen Con core, I think. Geez, you kind of got me here. I did.
I'd love to get a
It
hold
might
of
have been
that.
a special. It might have been a Gen Con special.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's one.
And I wasn't the only person who worked on that, by the way. Once again, there was a whole team of people.
Gen Con specials were nuts, Jay. Imagine taking that Ruins of Greyhawk book that Eric Moen and James Jacobs and them had done, but then cramming it into a weekend of play.
Oh my gosh.
For hundreds, if not thousands of people at Gen Con playing APL 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16, each of them doing a different room, as an example.
Huh.
So Bruce doing this, like I've never talked to anyone, I think, except maybe Britt, who'd written any part of these. It's just that would be to me as an author, I wrote a Gen Con special, the rest of you are schmucks.
I've never heard until tonight that there was a return to the Caverns of Shokanth. Not until just this discussion.
Yeah. So there was that. And then the year after, I also did the Gen Con special, which was the Pits of Azak Zil, or Return to the Pits of Azak Zil.
Right. Okay.
Something like that. It was Azak Zil. Remember the Azak Zil mines and everything.
Yeah.
I always thought it was like Yggdrasil. Gotcha.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. Yeah, it might be my Australian accent.
That's okay.
I'm probably messing it up.
But yeah, so that was another Gen Con special. Wow. Later in the day, I also worked with Crichton on the initial storyline for the. There was a series actually set in Greyhawk ruins, and I worked on the story for that. But I actually didn't write any of the modules for that one because I think I got tied up with a whole bunch of other things, and just didn't do that one. So I was in and around the traps there for a while, writing different things. Yeah. And wrote a few I Was meta regions as well in there for Jason Bullman. Yeah.
Super cool.
We had some real intriguing discussions with Eric, Jason, and James. So got a lot of information out. It's great to hear that you were working with them.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anna. You want to say?
I was just going. I'm curious. What kind of master villains did you develop for these the various, like for Perrenland and Ratik? What kind of were they new? Did you invent any new master villains, or what were recurring themes from?
Yeah, Mark, you might know. Yeah.
So we created a character. So very early on, we'd inherited the fact that Perrenland was led by a Vorman, the first man, which was an elected position. And just through a twist of fate, the election was due early on in the campaign. So we quite quickly decided, well, that's going to be a bit of a focus. And we started an off-the-cuff villain called Carl Husson, who was the son of one of the leading men of the clans. And this guy was young, handsome. He was touted as a hero for a defense of the Southern Pass. And actually, he was just an arrogant, out-and-out villain. And we got him to the point where in one of our subsequent adventures, he captured the player characters as part of the adventure and he tortured them. Some of them may even have been tortured by him. I remember that. And people loathed him. He became, everybody absolutely hated him. So eventually we got it to the point where you could have a final confrontation with Carl, and by God, people were fighting to try and be the one that get the killing blow in. And that was great. That was a real payoff because we just had to mention the name Carl Husson, and he barely appeared, really. I think, Bruce, you can, and Dean, you'll know because you probably played them. He only popped up in person a couple of times. Most of the time he was
in the background.
Yeah.
It was always
he was a master manipulator.
Yeah.
Good, Dean.
So
and then of course once we'd done Return to the Lost Caverns of Shokanth, then Igwilv became available. So up until and look, I don't know whether it's because I had something to do with it or I was on that writing team, but we couldn't use Igwilv up until that point. But then when we did Return to the Lost Caverns of Shokanth, well, Igwilv was back on the table. So then the whole last sort of 4 or 5 years of Perrenland, there were lots of stuff. So I mean, she didn't really appear, but well, she was dead, really, wasn't she? But she had a daughter. So she had a daughter. It was Igwilv's daughter. So Igwilv's daughter, whose name I've marked.
Wait. So I used Drellsna, and you're saying there's another daughter.
There's
he's talking
another
about-
daughter.
Another.
Charles, no?
I used as a complicated family, so to speak.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
She's
another
a
one
com-
then.
Yeah, Mark, do you remember who Igwil's daughter was?
No, because again, that was when I was transitioning over to
Extort
Ratik.
says
I wasn't-
lose
Yeah.
arena. I use a
No,
oh
he's
no,
saying
it's a joke. I use
he's
arena.
joking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would
But-
love to know about that more.
Oh
Wow.
yeah, we have to
Wow.
dive deep into them and see. We can poke
Another
And
into
who's
daughter.
the baby daddy?
Yeah.
So, the secrets of Socanth was Core Special 503. So that would have been 2005 at Gen Con.
2005, yeah.
And
But we would have been working on it in 2004. These things took.
hell, you may
We
have
used,
been
we
working on
used to start.
2003.
We used to start working on that in September, October the year before.
And it's interesting to hear you say this about Igwilf, because we've told the Jay and the audience in the past there were certain areas of Greyhawk which were off limits. For instance, in the BK, we weren't supposed to use Stoink. It had appeared in Gary Gygax's Gord the Rogue novels, and it was being reserved for core regional use. Drow, real dragons, and a couple other monsters were supposed to be off limits, but around year 6, they just kind of quit caring. The RPGA stepped back, I believe, and quit really overseeing the circle. So the circle then kind of relaxed a little bit. We started using the hell out of dragons like in year 5. And I think year 6 was the year of the dragon for the RPGA. So they were like in every adventure we ever wrote. We started writing mods in Stoink. We just threw, the rules out the window because no one was checking anymore. But it sounds like you actually were told, okay, go ahead with Igwilf now.
Yeah, and we were also given the go-ahead for Drow as well. So
Unlike Geoff.
Yeah, you should have heard Eric and them complaining
my
that
gosh.
they were Joff
couldn't-
and they weren't allowed to use the
So
drow.
did you bribe someone to get that permission, or what happened?
And I don't know. I don't remember bribing anybody, but I
just kidding,
remember
but it was-
asking. I remember
Yeah?
asking.
Mhm.
I remember I had to send. Because it was my module that the Drow attack trapped in, I remember I sent an outline. It would have been to Jason Bullman probably at that stage, and he okayed it. He just said, "Yeah, go ahead."
You
But
made
you're
your
right.
diplomacy role, so you.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right, Casey, when you said that they seem to relax at some point. And
Yeah.
I've got a funny feeling that year that I wanted to use the Drow was about 2006. So it might have been just happy coincidence that they were taking their foot off the brake, and when I asked for it, they went, "Oh, who cares? Yeah, let them have it."
Also, Bruce,
MSAG, sorry, mate.
Bruce,
Go.
sorry to interrupt. I would just say that we had a pretty good working relationship with the circle as well, though. And
Yeah.
our focus was always on the story. And that probably helped. I would imagine that they probably trusted you.
Well, possibly. I don't know.
As someone who annoyed the circle, I think Mark is dead on when you focused on the story and not the cheese, the crunch, the what access can I give to my players in the region. I want to give out a +5 Vorpal sword to level 1 characters, kind of bullshit that Sheldamar Valley did. I'm going to call them out again. Yes, Judy and Keeland and Jose, I'm talking to you. Then the circle was very much, I think, more likely to say, you know what? You guys have been really good. You haven't been pestering me. Go ahead and use the drow. Me, on the other hand, Chris Tulloch used to hate getting emails from me.
I can't see why.
I wanted to give out a cert that would let people have a half-red dragon baby.
Considering all the discords that Casey sends me on a weekly basis, I can't see why he would be annoyed. They would, just being facetious here. But wow, that's amazing.
We probably did get away with a fair bit. I don't know how much you've been told by Jason or Chris Tulloch. But we actually, in probably, I think it was 2007, Mark Dean, we were actually given the okay to have a, basically it was an official Perrenland special adventure, but it was a LARP. It was a live action role play adventure where we married off one of the main characters of the player characters who'd been in and around different adventures, and we held it here in Cairns. It was a live action role play, and it was overseen by the Wizards 3. And of course, one of those wizards was Elminster, as you may remember, and we actually had Ed Greenwood fly out and play Elminster as part of that live action role play.
Wow.
So Elminster
cool.
came through a portal into Traft City and presided over a live action role play here in Cairns.
I think that was once we had split off at Ratik at that stage.
Yeah, we had.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and we ran a number of interactives as well. I know I wrote one for Perrenland that we played at a con that ended up being a 3-parter. It was only meant to be one, and
they became quite huge.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember what the formal Living Greyhawk term was. Interactive event is more of a Australian term that we used to use. Definitely, where you'd have 40, 50 players for the one actual event, and there'd be a number of mini scenarios and the like. That was obviously the Australian role-playing scene was very much convention-based and systemless games, and these large number of interactive events where you would have costuming and sometimes even physical sets. And I've seen some games with 100 players, and it was all pretty much about the game politics and trying to work out your different goals and the like. And we transferred that into the Living Greyhawk environment. And they were a major feature events because they were only ever really ran the once. So if you wanted to play that specific game, it was a couple of them we might run a game in Canberra, and then we'd say that Melbourne could run it or Cairns might run it. But more often than not, we would use them as draw cards for those specific conventions. So, well, here's your chance to this is only ever going to get played once. There's going to be special events happening, so come along. Canberra,
and they also affected the plot line.
Yeah, they did. Absolutely, they affected. And they took a lot of coordination to write. You'd have sometimes up to a dozen people in the writing team just to get it all together. Because
what we often did is you'd have your interactive part, and then people would go off and play special missions. And so you'd write, a mini adventure of 3 or 4 encounters that would only be played by 6 people because, that was all it is. And then another table. So if you had, if you had 20 tables at these interactives, you might have, for each round, you might have 2 or 3 missions that would be played by 2 or 3 tables each. And then the rest would be one-offs that only one table would play. And then the results of those missions would be collated by the interactive coordinator. So it's usually a team who would then go, well, this is what's going to happen. So we're going to play these missions next. These ones are irrelevant because the characters have gone off in this direction. And so it really was almost like a bit of a choose your own adventure as well.
And Dean, let me jump in here. Thank you for saying that, because that is the living Greyhawk, real time. We don't see that in any current campaigns. Adventurers League, hey, Eric, you're doing a great job, Eric Mangay, but it's not a living campaign in that sense. Pathfinder Society, Eric Mona, great job, but it's not a living campaign. These guys in other regions were taking the results real time and determining, okay, what is happening next. So there was real player agency in Living Greyhawk.
The only group that I've seen still do that is, and forgive me for doing a bit of a plug for them, is Paradigm Concepts and the Arcanus Living campaign that they run at Origins. They do a big battle interactive and a big interaction which has direct plots.
And I don't know if Greyhawk Reborn is doing it.
We didn't.
Sorry.
That's a question we did not ask them on the DM's Roundtable Sunday night. But we can always. Dave Guerreri just jumped into the Greyhawk Con Discord, I can always ask him that question just to see.
But
But yeah,
it's
that's cool.
definitely something that's worth doing. There's a huge investment in time and energy to get them set up, but the payoff is the engagement with the players, especially if you know your player base quite well. And we could target individual mini encounters to individual characters. And we obviously had to make sure that you spread that around, that you weren't focusing, didn't want to show any favoritism to anyone. But and once we got to know people, I'm trying to think, Bruce, do you have an idea of what the player base size was? It wouldn't have been huge. It would have been 200 or 300 at most, I think, across Australia and New Zealand.
It wouldn't have been more than 300. Yeah. It wouldn't have been more than 300.
Yeah. No. So in Canberra, we had about 40 to 100 people. And we knew the Sydney people fairly well. And that, I think Canberra did become a bit of a hub because it's only Australian here. It's only a 3-hour drive from Sydney to Canberra.
Yeah.
And it's only about an 8-hour drive from Melbourne. So
which is
I like the way you guys talk about distances. It's like a Texan. We talk about like 8-hour drive is no big deal. You get up here to New England and these babies cry about a 2-hour drive.
I'm not driving to where you live, Casey, in Boston. I'm sorry. It's 4.5, 5 hours.
Well, we wouldn't drive to Cairns, that's for sure. It's ridiculous for us.
No.
So, but yeah, so Canberra became quite a hub, which was fantastic because we could draw everybody in, and it was brilliant if we could get someone from further afield. So occasionally we did get Patrick from Port Macquarie down, which is again an 8-hour drive from Canberra, but you have to pass through Sydney kind of to do that, which is a bit of a pain if you've ever driven in Sydney. So we really built that community up. That was probably the best thing from my point of view about living Greyhawk. And I think, sadly, it all dispersed when 4th edition came in.
Shame.
And they dropped that. It became just play opportunities, but players could not contribute to the same degree. You as a player could write an adventure. You could write a mini adventure that was targeting a very small group of people, and if it was well written enough, and we certainly coached people for that, then you could see the results reflected in the actual canon of the Greyhawk world.
And look, going back to what Mark talked about earlier and Bruce, where it was hard to get adventures running, I think that was actually a little bit of a boon for Perrenland because a lot of people knew that if they wanted to play an adventure, they had to go to the cons to do it because it would be, 3-6 months before it was available to play locally because it took so long for it to be approved. So people had this motivation to go to the conventions, which of course meant that you started playing with other players from other areas and you really build up these friendships and its community. And we reaped the reward of that later on in the campaign.
Yeah, totally agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that happened everywhere for Living Greyhawk. Every time we talk to triads and circle members, the fact that they actually built that into the campaign, right? Mods were supposed to premiere at conventions to help draw people to conventions, and there was no how do you say back when you get money for doing something? I'm trying to kickbacks. It's not like there was any money going back and forth from the doing of this. Like Conrad did some conventions. Conrad's former BK Triad sent me this shirt. He did Living Forgotten Realms stuff. He does stuff with Baldman Games for 5e conventions here. But anyway, he did conventions because he wanted to do conventions. And if he covered his costs in his hotel room, in his meals, it was a good weekend for him. It's not like anyone was getting rich off of this. But the mods premiered at cons. A month later, they premiered at game days, which would be at gaming stores, comic book shops, etc. And then a month later, they could be released, I believe, for what we called home play.
Yeah.
So they just kind of built that into the system and they encouraged it. And then Living Forgotten Realms didn't take that infrastructure and maintain it. And I think now in 5th edition, it's really just Adventurers League and Pathfinder Society and Baldman Games and the Pathfinder crew I don't think we get the same number of cons that we used to, but I could be wrong. I haven't been in the con scene for a while.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't think many living or D&D games appear at the cons. I'm well out of the Aussie convention scene. Dean, you probably know a bit more than I do.
Yeah, so, and I find it hard because, you know, I've got 4 daughters ranging from the age of 3 to 15. So, and our cons down in Melbourne happen to be on Australia Day, which is also my wife's birthday, or on Easter. So family commitments get in the way. But I do try and do a couple of days, and I run the Arcanus. But there's a bit of 5e Adventure League, and that's really it for organised play these days down here. The rest of it, yeah, the rest of it is, as Mark said, you know, free forms and systemless games are very big. But the other thing I've noticed is cons in Australia, at least in Melbourne, over the last 5 to 10 years have really dropped off. Our big Conquest, you know, we used to get, well, in the heyday, we used to get probably 100 to 150 living Greyhawk players. And that doesn't include, then you've got all your other games that are running in the con, plus they had a big wargaming contingent. So you'd get 500-600 people at this con, which I know
that's a significant con.
Yeah. Nowadays, Conquest, I think we had, when we ran it last before we were all locked down, about 120. I think they had about 10, 15, no, it wouldn't be 15, it'd be about 10 tables running.
Yep.
So a lot smaller. So,
well, in the US, cons, because of the COVID, are making a comeback virtually. You know, and that's a good thing. So we got 1 and 2 days.
Yeah, but leading up to that, this cons in the US have really increased the past 10 years. They've grown significantly from year to year. Yeah, Gen Con has gotten bigger every year.
Gary Con
got bigger every year. PaisaCon got bigger, as big as they want to have it. They're starting to put limits on a lot of cons because they run out of space. So
I think Pathfinder Society's popularity in the past, 8 years or whatever, did help with that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And look, sorry, I did forget there has been a big contingent of Pathfinder at the Australian cons, the Melbourne cons. But even that, by a big contingent, I mean, they're probably running 5 tables at a time. That's small compared to what things used to be.
Yeah.
Ironically, with COVID, this year I've actually run games at US cons more than I have in Australian cons.
That's awesome.
So I ran Gen Con online. I'm doing UCon. I'm doing Gamers ThinkCon. So
is this Arcanus? Is it a sequel to Living Arcanus or unrelated?
Yeah, no, it's a sequel. So if you guys don't mind, I'll give a very quick plug.
Sure. Yeah, please do.
So the Living Arcanus was the 3.5 campaign. Legends of Arcanus, which uses the Paradigm Concepts own system called the Arcanus role-playing game, is set 60 years in the future. And that's organized play. You've got your certs, everything like that you'd get for a thing. They also run in parallel Legends of Arcanus 5e, which runs the same games, and again it's also living. So so that's what I've been running, that, as well as being the campaign coordinator for a very small organized play called Rotted Capes, which again by Paradigm Concepts, which is zombie apocalypse / superheroes.
Okay.
So
always fun.
Yeah.
So you're a glutton for punishment. Many of the LG triads, it seems pretty split. Like half of them went on to Living Forgotten Realms and then realized they were burned out. And the other half, like me, just said, I'm burned out. And I was only triad for like 3 or 4 years or whatever it was. And then I started writing my book. So it sounds like, Mark, you were triad member from year 1 to 8, right?
Yes.
So I'm surprised you even still want to talk about this stuff. I'm surprised you
Oh, no, it was fine.
not
and
still.
then I went on to become a coordinator for at least for a year or two for the Forgotten Realms. The
See?
fourth
With
edition.
me, with
you
me,
did LFR.
yeah. It was me, Mark, and was it Colleen Simpson?
Yeah, it was Colleen. Initially.
Colleen
We
Simpson.
had Greg on the show.
Yeah.
Greg Marks.
Yeah, Greg Marks out of High
Yep.
Folk.
It's amazing that you have that want for that camaraderie and so. But you say you only did it like a year and then said that was enough, or?
Yeah, I did not like the fourth edition campaign again because it was nothing like the community that was involved, and also to be perfectly honest, I didn't like fourth edition D&D very much.
Okay.
So
I did 4 years. I did 4 years of Living Forgotten Realms. Yeah.
Yes. Probably what kept me engaged was that I really wasn't a player. I was just a GM and a writer, and so I had that break. My primary gaming was in other systems at home, so I was less to burn out on because I wasn't as wholly focused on Dungeons and Dragons and the living campaigns.
So,
whereas I probably took about 6 years off. When 3.5 ended, then Greyhawk ended, and Living Arcanus ended, and it was a number of years before Living Arcanus started back up. I wasn't interested in fourth edition. I've still got books in fourth edition still in their shrink wrap. That's and so it really wasn't until Paradigm started their own system and Fifth Ed came that I got back into the organized play.
Yeah.
Question. You we haven't delved into this. When you got to Ratik and it got opened, did the Perrenland story kind of end and it was just meandering, or what happened in that realm? And then also, Asher the Bear asks, thoughts on Ratik and Alain/Evely?
So, yes. So Perrenland continued. It was just that some of us split off from it. And in fact, I can remember having a fantastic time at a convention. I'm trying to remember if it might have been, was it Melbourne or Brisbane? I'm trying to remember, Bruce, where we plotted out 2 or 3 years of Perrenland storylines.
No, it was ReefCon. You come up to ReefCon. Yeah, in Cairns. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And so it was hard for me because I'd invested so much in Perrenland, and I was no longer involved, but I still, kept an eye on what was going on because I plotted with the guys a few years of campaign. So it was interesting seeing that come to fruition. And then I had to somehow take on Ratik, which I had no background in, and breathe some life into that, which we did. So the first adventure, the Fate of the Land was basically just twisted things around. And I think we ended up making it that Evely had been an imposter for a number of years. It was like her handmaid under an illusion and disguise, and that Evely had been captured.
Okay.
And so we brought her back and just completely we kept true to the history in that what had happened before was still it held, but we twisted it and we gave it our own kind of new spark, and that kicked off a lot of new work. But I mean, I found it was difficult again for me because I only had a year or so of being a Ratik triad, and then I was thrust in the role of being a meta-regional coordinator in a region which I had no background in, because NMR we had absolutely nothing to do up until that point. So then I had to learn about Nyrond meta-region and all its surroundings, and and deal with a completely different writing group because, I'll be honest, the American mindset and the Australian mindset when it comes to gaming can be quite different, and what their expectations were. And people were referencing old adventures, and I had no idea what the heck they were talking about. So I'd been missing some little bits of canon and in-jokes and the like, so I had to rely heavily on some other people in the region and also the circle as well. And I sort of muddled through there. But what it meant was that I'd had to change my mindset from being very Perrenland focused to suddenly being very Ratik focused. And then after a year of that, I had to set Ratik to the side and take on the whole meta region. So those last couple of years for me were a bit of a blur, to be honest. I didn't enjoy them as much, but I, not to say I disliked it, but it was tough. It was really tough.
Did I miss how you ended up in that role?
Yeah, so by being last man standing, pretty much.
Free labor.
Yeah, we got Ratik by fait accompli. It was just Ratik's. There were a few other areas, but it was basically, I don't think we had a choice. Or if we did, we only had a choice between a couple of regions. And then, so that suddenly Colleen Simpson became the meta regional coordinator. And she did that year of it. So funnily enough, so from being a triad where she was writing to me, suddenly I was writing to her as the coordinator. So luckily we had a good working relationship. And then
Colleen became triad of Ratik for a while with James, didn't she?
Yeah, no, she didn't. It was, I'm trying to remember who it was. Poor old James copped it. He got kind of dragged in from being the web guy to a degree for Perrenland to being the triad for Ratik, and with me being the lead, so I had all the experience, and then all of a sudden I'm away and he's having to run the show, and he did a really good job.
This is James Dempsey.
Yes.
Yep.
Who co-wrote mods with Bruce.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So, and James, to be perfectly honest, you won't meet a lovelier guy, and he's so mild-mannered. He probably, as a triad, it would have been very hard for him to, because sometimes you really had to put your foot down and tell people, no, that's ridiculous. You can't do that. And so he handled that quite well. And luckily, he was Canberra-based, so I had a good working relationship with him. We would meet up a lot, and being able to work face-to-face makes a big difference. But yeah, so even Ratik for me is a bit of a blur because I never got to engage with it to the degree that I would like to. I was really just starting to get my teeth into what was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, Colleen had resigned as the meta regional coordinator. And they said, Mark, would you do it? It was like, yeah, all right. You need someone.
If you get the chance, go back and listen to the Zeif guys show where they talk about how they pitched Ratik to the RPGA, because Canada was similar to you guys in that it was a large country with only like one region. And so they could travel down to the US, to play in other regions, but they didn't have, their own multiple regions, I guess. And actually they were part of the Duchy of Ernst, which was a US region as well. So they kind of wanted their own thing. But it was a great thing on the show where they talked about, they came up with this huge pitch and proposal, like give us Ratik, and they worked on it for 6 months and they gave it to the RPGA, and the RPGA just said like, hey, this is really great, we're going to give you Zeif. So I asked Corey to be on tonight to talk about that, but I'm not sure he's going to make it. I pinged him in Discord. Can I real quick, Jay, before you move on, I may have missed this when I had to deal with personal stuff earlier tonight, but Perrenland was part of the IU's meta regional, but I'm not sure that you said your earlier bad guy really had anything to do with IU's, right? Like, what was the IU's connection for Perrenland during Living Greyhawk?
Wolf.
Well, I mean, I don't really think that's an IU's connection other than she exists. No, I mean like in Living Greyhawk, like that was IU's army attacking, that kind of thing.
Not really. It was all, if IU's, and you can talk more to this, Bruce, because it became more involved later on in the piece, but for the most part, IOS was a distant threat, and it was all border concern. So if there was any impact on Perrenland, it was agents of IOS stirring up trouble.
There was
that makes sense.
Yeah. Dean, go.
I was going to say there was a bit of a side connection to IOS where Perrenland had a region called the Sepia Uplands, which was annexed by Perrenland to act as a bit of a buffer between the forces of Isles and Perrenland. And the gnomes of the uplands did not appreciate being suddenly part of Perrenland, and so there was a bit of
Nice.
almost civil war and tensions happening there. So
like
there was
that.
that connection.
Yep.
Yeah, we were.
Nice.
Yeah, so IUs was one of the ones we couldn't touch for many, many years. We were told, you know, you can't really have anything to do with IUs except agents. You know what I mean?
No bone
So we
hearts.
would. Yeah. So you couldn't. We couldn't use, you know, Vane or, you know, any of those masterful characters from you know, the Evil of Isles and all those second edition supplements, which you might remember, which was very frustrating because there was lots of really really great material there that we could have drawn on, but we weren't allowed to. When the IU's meta region started up, once again, we were able to do a bit more in that space. And I think that's when we did have the gnomes in the uplands and everything, and there were more things happening. We also had quite a few things happening with the tiger nomads and the wolf nomads.
Oh, cool.
We had a couple of Perrenland adventure sort of crossovers with the wolf and tiger nomads, and but once again, that was towards the end of the campaign, not at the start.
Yes.
I don't know if you can see that, but that is the
What do you got there?
favor of the Wolf Nomads. This is the adventure record from I use 307, I think it was, Infiltration, written by Bruce here. I played it at San Jacinto 32. That's a community college in Houston, Texas, on March 4th of 2004. With my 10th level character at APL 12. So I was dumb and brave. I played up in an I used meta regional adventure. It has a favor on it, the favor of the Wolf Nomads, which I earned. This favor gives the recipient a +2 bonus on all diplomacy checks when dealing with native Wegweir. Am I pronouncing that right?
Wegweir, yeah.
Wegweir tribes.
Just a second, guys. I've just got I've had someone's had an accident in my house. I'll be back in a sec. All right.
All right.
Oh my.
Of course I have.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Oh my.
But anyway, so that's what the adventure record for Bruce's adventure would look like. And as you notice, I did not get the IR of IUs, so I actually failed that adventure, I'm sure.
So
yes.
Here's a question. When you transitioned over to Ratik, it sounds like you had only about 18 months. What was the plot lines you developed?
So the first thing, I guess, was to bring Everly back more into the forefront. So as written, she was kind of the daughter of the previous Prince of Ratik, and she was seen as a kind of a wishy-washy character, and we didn't like that.
Okay.
We thought, no, we're going to make it that she's been captive for years, rescue her, bring her into the forefront, and make her the primary character. And then a lot of focus then went on to, I guess, just to be honest, it was just building up new storylines, introducing different aspects. So the Frost Barbarians, for example, focusing a lot on the seagoing nature of Ratik. Lots of fun around Marna and being the capital. From my point of view, Dean, you could probably talk more to this because you were more involved with the actual the regional storyline. As I said, very quickly my focus was drawn away to the meta region.
In terms of the meta plot that was happening in Ratik, my involvement wasn't too much because I was, writing my own stories, which was sort of like a side plot, not because I wasn't Triad. But yeah, a lot of it was, I think, playing around and setting up these seeds and seeing which ones the players like to grab hold of. And that's what happened with Perrenland too, is, there were certain seeds that were put out there by the writers and the Triad that the players took hold of, and that helped determine the direction. I think there was a bit of that happening. but yeah, it was more about bringing back the Baroness. I believe she was.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and the story behind there, and what was happening, and who kidnapped her, and it was all the political intrigue of the court. So a lot of it was
quite
people
different from Perrenland in that sense, and that courtly intrigue became a major part of what was going on. Whereas in Perrenland, most of the characters were pretty, rough and ready kind of individualists.
And one of the big things was a lot of the adventures were set in the court, and we had laws that people weren't allowed to have armor or weapons open.
Oh my!
And so one of my adventures, I think, was Cause and Causality, which actually gave the players a certified reinforced pot lid, which would act as a small shield. But it wasn't a small shield, so they could keep it on them, and when they were at court, being, whatever position they were. So little things like that was very different to Perrenland, and a lot of it, I think, was still finding our feet. We had the idea of the whole Baroness and bringing her back, but that was really as far as we delved into it.
Yeah, that's true. We kind of got cut off quite early in the piece. But interestingly, one of those, in preparation for this, Bruce sent us out the resources, and we do actually have the complete list of Ratik adventures and Perrenland with just the blurbs. So we can, and that's been PDF'd up.
Oh, that'd be great.
Nice.
To share that. We'll share that with, I think it's Rich, who's been putting together this spreadsheet. Yeah, like I've got the list of Ratik adventures in front of me, but I don't have any blurbs, level ranges, the authors.
This has got every blurb, who the authors are. It's fantastic. It was really quite interesting to read through that again, because it's been 10 years or more, and I've forgotten a lot of it, and it's a really nice reminder. So, and it just sparks those memories of what we were doing and the things that we created.
We try to bring back some friendly memories here, and then ignite some new ones, right, Casey?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. With our gaming, and I'm just looking at the Ratik titles, and I could do this with Perrenland too. But Dean, if I said Ratik 702, the Slaughtered Unicorn, that probably I don't even know what that means, but now I want to, because that's a great title.
Yeah. I've got, as I said, I've got the list here right in front of me. So but I don't even remember who Mickey Spillane was, but he was the author. So
I think Mark was a Melbourne guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
I would say so.
So how many people do you still keep in touch with, roughly, from the Living Greyhawk days? A dozen, maybe, at most?
Yeah, probably at most.
Okay.
I mean, our fortnightly gaming session's got quite a few of us involved, really, when you look at it. So there's, 6, 7 of us.
Tell us about it. Tell us about what you're playing now in Greyhawk, what you're doing.
So this is the one that Bruce... So we initially started off, it was just random old D&D adventures. But for reasons of family getting in the way, we switched over to Living Greyhawk because we've got different GMs depending on what's going on. And Bruce has been running us through the Shieldlands, which has been really interesting. So we've got obviously the 3 of us, and then Bruce's son, one of the Dean's good friends and ours, obviously, John, who's down in Melbourne. And
John was involved with the Living Greyhawk, not so much as a writer, but more as a contributor to the flavour. So he was on the Perrenland Council that we spoke of earlier.
So that would be John D. Call out to him. And then Robin, friend of Bruce's up in Cairns. So it's really good. And we chinwag about the old Living Greyhawk days as well.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, ironically, right now, we're not playing Living Greyhawk. Well, I'm running some Shadowrun for the guys.
That's a shitload of D6s, right?
That's me.
Yeah.
I used to run Greyhawk exclusively. That's all I would run for years on end. When I wanted a break, my friend would run Shadowrun.
Yep.
So that's all we ever
my
did.
game system, pretty much. That's what I do with my other home group.
The Shieldlands game is 5e, I think you've said. And it's a home game, Bruce. It's all right out of your head, or are you taking adventures and converting them?
No, I'm taking taking adventures and converting them. Yeah.
Like first edition or Living Greyhawk or?
No, Living Greyhawk. Yeah.
Oh, so you've got like you probably have access to that. Obviously, you know we all got a lot of the stuff.
Just over the years, collected bits and pieces. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So basically,
that's very cool.
It's good fun.
Hey.
I must admit, though, I'm trying to remember what the name of the last adventure we played was, Bruce, but we pretty much spent the whole adventure going, how the hell did anyone survive this? And I didn't know what to play.
Yeah, because even converting some of these to 5th edition, I've powered it down. You know what I mean? If I played it as it would have appeared it would have been 3rd edition because it was 591. It would have been 3rd edition, not 3.5.
Oh, 3.0 had some balance issues.
Total balance issues. You know. I mean, they would have been dead. Like their characters would be gone. Yeah. And you know, we're not playing it as living Greyhawk.
That's what
we're playing it.
Yeah, organized play were they were power gamers. This seems, at least that's my experience of all.
Well, we were told to be by the circle. I've talked about that
Pathfinder
before.
organized play. It was power play. It was like min-maxers.
And you look at our campaign. You know, we've got, I think we've got a barbarian, which is Robbo. We've got a sort of a magic user fighter, which is John. Bruce's son and myself both play bards, and can't remember what you play, Mark.
Paladin,
Paladin, yeah. So there's no cleric in the party. You don't need any of this healing stuff.
Yeah.
So we
not 5e with a paladin and a couple bards. Yeah, you'd be all right. But Bruce, we had Jeffrey Dauberpool on, who was a Shieldlands Triad member and author a couple months ago or earlier this year. So I've got an episode guide that I publish from time to time. But if you want to dive into his episode on the show, let's see. I'm not sure. He was on episode 41. I don't know how you find that on the Twitch or the YouTube. Jay could tell you that, but I can tell you
that's easy, especially 41. On YouTube. Because I have a playlist for Gabbins and I have a playlist for Legends and Lore, and they're all numerical.
And so it's on YouTube, is it?
Yeah, I have a mirror.
YouTube's a bit easier for me to.
I have a mirror. There it is. I just linked it. It's Lord Space Gazumba. It's just a mirror. It's not streamed or anything like that, but it's where I store them, because after 90 days they go off Twitch. Instead of Lord Gazumba all smashed together on Twitch, it's Lord Space with a Space Gazumba, and you can find it. And subscribe.
Yeah, I do remember. I do remember Jeff. Yeah, I've got. Yeah, I think I might have even worked with Jeff on a couple of occasions with different things over the years. Yeah.
I'd be surprised now after listening to how many things you worked on if you hadn't, crossed paths with him. So to me, it's neat. I am frustrated by the fact that we have these IP issues, because I do tell people, hey, it's not legal to share these mods. And I know the archives are out there. I know people have access to them. I know these things go on. So that's the official position. But Fun Casey would be like, man, wouldn't it be really cool to just run your own little Living Greyhawk campaign with your friends? Like, I never got to play Ratik. I never got to play Perrenland, and if I could whip those up for my friends here in Boston, or now that we're all remote, it could be people all over.
Well, you're doing
wouldn't that be a
now,
blast?
So you can always move on from that.
We had a bit of a discussion as to which region we were going to play in.
That question came up.
I guess we picked Shieldlands partly because we were vaguely familiar with Isles, but we weren't familiar with the Shieldlands itself. So it was all fresh to us.
And then I both love the Shieldlands, and I have part of my campaigns active in the Shieldlands.
Yeah.
And that Shieldlands is the most changed area for each DM there is on the map. I mean, of any, in my opinion. It's so vastly different depending on who's DMing it.
Yeah.
And how much is conquered, how much isn't, depending on what time frame you're playing. So it's you got factions from all over the place. The Red Hand is the Red Hand there, all sorts of things. So yeah, definitely cool.
It's good fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been good.
Yeah.
Great.
And it's a heroic setting. You can have the shiny paladins killing demons and Iusians and just
Yep.
and goblins and orcs and things. You don't have to deal with, in the Bandit Kingdoms, you can't be a paladin. You need to be a rogue and an assassin and all that kind of stuff.
It can be kind of really heroic fantasy that way with
Yeah.
Paladin. Yeah. The
Right.
good
Like
guys
we will
get
take
rogue.
back our homeland.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I
And
imagine
Greyhawk
Shieldlands.
Greyhawk is just across the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we have we did do one core module in Greyhawk as well, just to kick things off. I just wanted to remind everybody, what put the grey in Greyhawk sort of.
Was it a Brendigan mod? Because
Oh
I
no,
It
not
wasn't.
Brendigan! No.
No, it wasn't. No,
we've
I forget
explained
which one it was
Brendigan
now.
to
Oh,
Jay.
thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
no, it
brings
wasn't.
back memories.
Yeah, no, Brendigan's Bride wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right. The half black dragon kid, right?
Oh.
Seducing the daughter or something like that.
Yeah, there were some strange adventures, weren't there?
Yes.
Someone
We wrote
was
Can't see times compared to today. So
smoking a little too much of the wacky weed.
You
When
could
some of
just
these were
go.
made.
You could go overboard back then. It was like no one cared that much. Yeah,
But it was, I mean, just the leftovers from it is just such great talking points and discussions. And since I never played Living Greyhawk and stayed on my own campaign all those years, I love to hear and experience.
yeah.
That's why I love these discussions so much. I always ask this, and someone always busts my stones. Are you okay if we run a little late in the discussion tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. Dean's
Yeah,
looking.
I'm probably going to have to go in about 10 or 15 minutes,
Okay,
but
okay.
I can stick around a bit longer. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. So I just, because I know with shout outs and all, we'll run over the 10 o'clock. I just wanted to ask that for courtesy. So why don't the three of you give us a little synopsis of your experience and what you took out of it, and would you go through it all again? Dean, why don't you start us off with that?
Yeah, so my experience with, as I said, with Living Greyhawk was awesome. It really was. It's what got me back into gaming when I moved interstate into Victoria, because I didn't have any a gaming group at that stage. So that's where I built the gaming group up. The thing I loved about it as a player was it allowed me to play a con game where I'd go to different cons around Australia, meet new people. But you had the continuity of having a character that you could see grow and develop organically like you would in a home campaign. It gave me the opportunity to start writing adventures, which I've continued to do through the Arcana stuff, and just meet awesome people. So would I do it again? In a heartbeat.
Good to hear.
Wonderful.
And plus, you're playing still with the same gentlemen, same people that
Yeah,
you were
so
all those years ago.
Yeah, my home group, which is the face-to-face when we can do it, are all people I met through Living Greyhawk and the other online campaigns we played. And the fortnightly game that I play with Bruce and Mark and his son, Dudley. They're
Dudley,
all old. Yeah. I forgot Dudley's name. Sorry, Dudley. Yeah, they're all old Living Greyhawk people as well. So, yeah, the community, it was just fantastic.
Awesome.
I think the son was old enough to play Living Greyhawk.
Yeah, Dudley was
10.
Yeah,
my son's 10. He plays
10,
in my
9 or 10, maybe. Yeah.
I-
Dudley.
not in the Bandit Kingdom.
Yeah.
In those cases.
No, it
Yeah,
happened.
Dudley was probably mature for his age.
No,
at the time.
I've had some kids at our tables in the BK that were great players, and we had to tone down the adult themes a pinch in the BK for them. But it's good to have that generation of gamers keep going and be able to play with you. I'm not a father. I don't have any kids, so I'm a little jealous when I hear you say like you're getting to play D&D with your kid.
It's a great experience.
Oh yeah. Look, and I think Living Greyhawk, apart from the things that Dean said, it's the same for me. So I'm not going to repeat them all. It gave me a chance to write and and to meet some amazing people who I'm still in contact with today. It did give me a chance to spend quality time with my son and my daughter, because both my son and my daughter played. My daughter doesn't play anymore, but my son still does, and I'm sure that he will pass that on to his kids as well. It also gave me a chance, I think, to introduce Dungeons and Dragons, and I hadn't mentioned this yet. It gave me a chance to introduce role-playing and Dungeons and Dragons to all of the students in my school. My school is Trinity Bay High here in Cairns. We are one of the largest schools in Queensland.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I think at the height, we had probably about 50 or more kids just from the school and the local region involved in Living Greyhawk for many, many years, and several of those, or more than several, probably I can think of 7 or 8 of those kids who were kids, when they started playing when they were 12, 13 years old, are still playing today, and quite a few of them have actually gone on to be teachers themselves and are running Dungeons and Dragons games for kids in their schools, and so I suppose the thing that I'm most proud of is that kind of legacy, because I'll go, you know what I mean? We all go, we all die, what have you. But a couple of things live on, what we give people and what they can pass on lives on. I suppose what we write lives on to some degree as well too. But I'm pretty proud of that legacy, actually, and that's why I did it. That's actually the reason why. I know it sounds weird. I actually got involved in Living Greyhawk at the start. It was to start a club at the school and get other kids involved. Yeah,
it was always good
It's
going
amazing.
up to ReefCon, which is the con that Bruce run actually at the school, and you'd be there at a table, and there'd be like me and John, and there were the other 4 players would be his students, and every time they'd go to do something, it would be, Mr. Paris, I do this. And so naturally enough, John and I would start going, Mr. Paris, we do this.
yeah, good fun.
Awesome.
Thank you, Bruce. And Mark, what would you like to say?
Yeah, well, much the same as the other guys. I think the main memory I have of Living Greyhawk is the community, more than anything else. And these friendships, which have lasted, for 20 odd years now, very odd years, considering the people involved. But yeah, it's been, and again, I like to look back on some of the old adventures that I have, and just for a bit of reminiscence, and having that legacy left behind is great. For someone who, as I've repeated a few times, I'm not strictly a D&D player normally. It's got very fond memories. So it was really good to transition. I guess my background in D&D was, yes, playing Greyhawk Adventures, then doing Dragonlance, a little bit of Forgotten Realms, and then jumping back into Living Greyhawk. So yeah, I've got nothing but fond memories. And yeah, I would do it again, maybe in a reduced capacity, or maybe I'd try and get my youngest daughter, who is 8 and is very imaginative, and maybe make it that it's a family thing that we did, because it could be very family friendly and engaging.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well,
They would need to pay me next time. Whoever it is, whatever company it is.
We really appreciate you all coming on, especially with the time difference. Thank
Yeah.
you so very much.
Awesome fun.
If any of you had to bolt, we usually do the shout outs now, and if it drags on, I understand. If you got to just snap off, it's okay. We'll try and
Jay,
keep
I might say bye now.
Bruce,
and
thank you.
you all.
Yeah, Bruce, thank you
so
very
much,
much.
Bruce. It was
Thank you so
wonderful.
very
See you on
much.
the internet.
Thank you for helping me coordinate this. Thank you for coming on. And hopefully
Thank
we
you,
can
Casey.
do a show in the
Yeah.
future where we maybe pair you up with some of like the High Folk and the Shieldlanders. Get Jeffrey on so you can talk to him about the
Be
Shieldlanders.
great.
We need Creighton
Yeah.
on.
Do
We got to
that in
get Creighton
2021.
on.
No, you know what?
You really have to get Crichton.
We gotta get
on.
Crichton,
yeah.
Bruce, can you reach out to people from like say the core scene and Crichton and others like that, because we really haven't had a show focused on the core story arcs, the Bright Sands
That would be
and stuff like that. If you could, and then reach out to me, that'd be great.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yes.
No problem. We'll see what we can do.
Perfect.
All right, guys, take it easy.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
Louis.
you.
I'll see you guys
Thank
later.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers,
Bye
Bruce.
bye.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Let's start tonight with Mike.
Okay. So this is shout outs, huh?
Sure, you got a big one.
Do I?
Yeah.
You got a kind of.
You just said yes to it.
Yes.
Oh, right. So I'm going to be I'm a Greyhawk All-Star, everybody.
Exactly.
Mike is playing with Luke and Eric and Anna and Chuck Combo and Stephen Chenault and maybe Gary. So
Maybe. I'll believe it when it happens.
Yes, you are in.
Gary can be tough to pin down.
Yeah, you are in. Gary's been lurking all night. I've seen him lurking away, but Gary may have a conflict that has arisen. So we will either have 6 players or 7 if Gary's on. But so
We'll see.
and then Mike is playing. If Gary cannot make it, Mike is playing his priests. If not, a fighter. So there you go.
What level's the
Can't wait.
5th,
the
6th.
group? All right.
Starting off.
You've already given him his spells, right? So that Mike.
I got it
to,
all. Yes.
See,
Death's door, Mike. You have
I'm
to
just
take
hoping
a Death's door.
Yeah.
And
I'm hoping I still have some energy after Casey.
Yes, Balfrin, son of Melf, and Luke has been posting all over Facebook groups how excited he is for playing this game. So I am really psyched about this. My only scared thing is that the ever mysterious Tim will be DMing, will be playing the antithesis, and that scares.
Co-DMing.
He's not co-DMing. He's not co-DMing.
He's running an NPC, right?
He's running the NPC, and I'm running all the
co-DMing.
other bays. No, it's not. He's playing one character because I don't trust him. So yes, because he's too scary. But so Mike, what else? What else you got going on?
Besides,
you're playing a bunch.
Casey beating me down the day before.
Yeah.
That's right.
In the Bandit Kingdoms.
Yes, and that's going to be
besides
awesome.
That,
that's enough.
So on my blog, Greyhawkery, I have a new column I'm working on. An old column, new. My Ring of 5 Questions.
Oh, right.
I'll put the link on there. Anyone can respond to this. Just send me an email, answer those 5 questions for me, and I'll try to put you on my blog.
I need to get there and do that. I read that when you posted it.
Yeah. So
I've
I'm
been
kind of
slammed.
Really been having a mental block. So now I'm just going to get fan interaction going.
Awesome. Always a great place to go. Thank you, Mike. Anna.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just as we speak, I'm putting the stuff in the seminar folder, Jay, so you can share my campaign map.
It's going into the Dropbox.
Yes, it's going into Dropbox now, so you can. So I will say that anyone who signed up for my seminar will get the link very, very soon. As soon as Jay has sent it out to all the people that signed up to my seminar, will get it now. Otherwise, I will put it on Friday morning or late Thursday night. We'll see which. Then it will be available. I will put a blog post up on my page.
I am going to check something out.
And on my website, so everyone can get a chance to kind of scrutinize it before and have it during the seminar, so you can ask questions and stuff. And I've also put some other cool stuff. We're going to have a physics lesson on my seminar. So yeah, not regular physics, of course, will be D&D physics. So it will be D&D physics, but it will be a kind of special kind of D&D physics that ties into how the stories and gods and magic and stuff like that works. So that will be kind of so you can either steal it or say that that's horrible thing, not my campaign, is not going to work like that. So we'll see. So that is some ideas and things, kind of concept that I played with for years and refined over the years, so to speak, to put in. So that will come, and there will be some new cool, just the early previews on various cool projects and stuff will come too. Not that many, unfortunately, but because this time we'll focus on stories and stuff, not so much the map will be the kind of the vehicle to talk about it, but it will be the big campaign map. So it will be a lot of talk about what I've done with different regions and during my campaigns and stuff, and a lot of ideas and stuff, how to develop, how I think about the continuation of Greyhawk. So it will be set in 598, 599. That's far as my campaign have reached, so to speak, over the years. So it will be kind of an idea. You can take ideas, you can take things you don't like and things you like, and kind of bring it with, and when you develop your own Greyhawk campaign, so to speak. And as anyone who's I babbled on previously on this channel about my sandboxy style, so it will be a lot of how to develop a sandbox game set in Greyhawk, various sandbox campaigns. So if you want to kind of take things and say, okay, what do I do with this region? Or I want my players to go over here and play, and how you can kind of deal with it. A little bit on how I do the process of taking it from the big picture down to actually characters going from village to village and finding NPCs and monsters and how to connect this stuff, so to speak. So I will have some theories on that and tie that into D&D physics.
And I think it's sending it to me is great, but so I don't have to manually type in every single email to connect to a Dropbox. Could you create a Google Doc and then send that to me? The link to that.
What you do, you just right click on it and you get a copy Dropbox link, and then you just send an email to all the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Every participant, because you're the host of you're the one that hosts the event, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you have to send it.
Otherwise,
I would have done it.
Right. Yeah. I will email those 39 signups, which is the second largest of for highlighted stream we have.
Yeah.
Something I forgot downstairs, but one of the giveaways that night for Anna's Friday night show is one of those $40 courtesy Reaper Miniatures Learn to Paint kits. So it's going to be, yes, that along with the Troller Games $10 gift certificate will be the other one I think I've marked out. So, yes, a nice big, fat, juicy giveaway that night as well. So, definitely looking forward to that, Anna. It's going to be a blast. Going to be a fun time for all, and I really appreciate it. Casey, you got your game.
Three
times.
Absolutely. So here's an interesting fun fact for the tournament coming up that won't spoil anything. There are 5 pre-generated characters, all 4th level, based on Living Greyhawk, Bandit Kingdom's iconic mercenaries we had in the Bandit Kingdoms. We allowed tables of 4 players who were members of a meta org to say like, hey, we need help. We want to have a 5th, character at the table. So I took these guys, converted them to Pathfinder, and they are the pre-gens for this tournament I'm running. They are Varen, who is a human necromancer from Halorn, Tosk, a half-orc barbarian 2 ranger 2 from the Felry Forest, Tammy Gonigan, a halfling rogue from the city of Rookroost, and then we've got Garavina the Pure, who is a cleric of Foltest from Dimray, so she does worship the Ebengleam aspect of Foltest, and that's who Mike is going to be playing. But the 5th one is Sergei Artansonov, a Renee fighter rogue character. And out of the 14 players who responded to which one do you want to play, 7 chose Sergei the Renee. He was the most popular by far. And I'm like, wow, people are just either really into fighter rogues or they're really into Renee. So Christoph will be getting to live his dream and will be playing the Renee. Yeah, he beat out Mike for that. Christoph, I know you're not live right now. You're in bed because I've already poked you on Discord. So I'm going to make fun of you a little bit. But Christoph, we all know has a love for the Renee. So anyway, this tournament will kick off on Friday. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
Pig.
Yeah, and during the Ask the Experts part, the very last show, Casey will come on and give you the winners of everything. And I can't wait for the entire 3 days.
I'm a little worried that I've made it too tough.
No,
I'm like, if I kill these guys in the first hour, like TPK, I'll be bad, but I'll feel bad. But then it's like, well, they didn't pay. They didn't pay anything.
Exactly. Mark, do you have any? And also you're playing in my game, Welcome to the Narwhal Headhunters, Sunday morning.
Yeah,
with that quick change. Yes, and you're playing Saoirse, which is she's a ranger cleric 1/2
of Tritherion.
Tritherion, yes.
But this is one of your character's PCs, one of your players, Bill, the Master Crafter.
Yes.
Right. So his character sheet is hilarious. It's very old school. It says she hates all humanoids. And I'm like, no, that's so 1980s. She's a cleric of Tritherian. She's a social justice warrior. She is going to free all the humanoids from their evil leaders.
Oh my gosh.
That's her new mission.
Well, that's okay for one time. It's a one shot. It's a what if scenario. We're gonna have fun with it. You know, that was something. I'm looking forward to that group. We got a group of 7 great players. Mark, do you have anything you'd like to shout out, or what's going on, or anything you're working on?
Look, I think probably as a shout out, I would just call out Patrick Williamson and James Dempsey, who were key guys back in the day who obviously aren't with us in this discussion. They were good friends and they did a lot then. Gaming wise, it's very home focused at the moment. So we use the Roll20 engine. As I said, I'm introducing the Living Greyhawk guys to Shadowrun. But I do Shadowrun at home, and I also do the One Ring role-playing game. If anyone's ever done that, which is the Middle Earth, fantastic. Because surely, as all of us being gaming geeks, we are deeply involved in Middle Earth. So if anyone hasn't tried that, give it a go.
Awesome. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, it's been great to come along and chat, and lots of fun nostalgia.
Excellent. Dean, anything you would like to share?
Thanks. Yeah, just very quickly, a lot of the stuff I've been doing is home stuff, but I will be game mastering some Living Rotted Capes at Gamehole Con and UCon in November. And if I can, I'd just like to let people know that I also have just started a actual play podcast called The Lone Orc. That's Orc with a K. We're still very new to it, so I'm still finding my feet. So forgive the audio quality and the editing. It's a work in progress, but we've released 3 episodes, 2 in Arcanus and 1 in the Star Wars Force and Destiny system.
Sounds like a blast. Cool. I know it's real late, but maybe when we run Virtual Greyhawk Con next year for 2021, we'll reach out to you. Maybe you could run something. We're going to do it the same first weekend of October next year. I think we got 2. We're up to, and congrats to the community for really coming together. But we have over 220 registrations now.
Oh, I'd be honored.
Yeah, awesome. And like 65 events that are about to kick off. So real quick in my synopsis, I've been running through all of them all night, a lot of the highlighted streams. Our newest sponsor, Phone Bringing Games, really stepped up. Some of the things that they're going to be giving away during the Greyhawk All-Stars, I got one of those large sets, the same one with Anna. It's a layer up set from Reaper. But look at this. I mean, these copper dice. I mean, this is not cheap, those sets. Custom copper dice set. During the very end, I don't know, I'm scared about this. A 35 millimeter metal dice, 20. It's this thing will kill you.
Those things are deadly.
These are called the table breakers. I would not want to roll this on an expensive table. You know what I mean?
No, it will dent wood.
Oh my gosh.
From a different company.
We got a lot of new dice trays from them. Reaper really stepped up, and we have, along with the large ones, we got the Brian Wynn paint sets we'll be giving out during streams. Every highlighted stream is going to be doing a giveaway, every single one. $10 gift certificates from Trollord Games. We're giving out like 10 of those during highlighted streams. It's going to be a fantastic, fun weekend of content. And real quick, I'm just going to skim through these. That's my game tomorrow night. It's a 2-week prelude that goes, the end of that will start the All-Star game Saturday night. Whatever happens at the end of my game with my normal group tomorrow nights will lead right into what happens Saturday night for Luke and Eric, Mona and Anna and Mike and the rest of them. So
Jay's got a little living campaign going.
Yeah.
Hey, you're 40, man. I precede all of you, so I'm sorry to sound arrogant, but 40th year, got a lot of interaction going on.
Yeah. Talk to us when you've run a 15 table interactive.
I can't do that, man. I got enough worried about this. Mike Disney kicks us off Friday morning, 9 a.m. This is all Eastern time. He's painting the head of the Dark Brotherhood in my campaign, Holly, and he's doing a great job of it. That starts us off. I don't have all highlighted streams in here. Blue Boxes is 1 p.m. Eastern, their open campaign that Friday. Stephen Chenault has a seminar, Tricks of the Trades, 5 o'clock Friday. Anna's great seminar is Friday, 7 p.m. Okay, like I said, you don't have to sign up in TTE. You can just watch it on Twitch. We also have a link, a community link for everything. One button, it takes you right to the right Twitch channel. 2 games are on after Anna's. Carlos Lysing's Reflections from a Smoking Mirror and Will's Wicked Studios Alliance in the Ropes. That's Friday. Saturday, the ever mysterious Tim starts it off with Dark Hand Heartstrike. This is going to be one hell of it's an all barbarian campaign, right? Carlos is playing in it. Anna's playing in it. Will's playing in it. Katana's playing in it. Matthew Lazinski. It's just crazy. It's going to be a crazy game. I'm producing it, and I'm just going to sit back and watch you all die. So there you go. And that one. Shadows of the Halfling Hall. Chuck Cumbo is running that. In Fantasy Grounds, and it's a Troller Games product, and he's the Troller Games community director, and he's running that with characters from my campaign as well. Expedition to Barrier Peaks is on at 3 o'clock Eastern. That's Nightheart Gaming, and that'll raid.
Damn, Frank went with the graphics.
Yeah, it was awesome. Frank is awesome, man. He just knows what he's doing.
Frank the Wizard.
Yep, absolutely. And then that goes into the Greyhawk All-Stars game. All right, now Gary's the only one who's an iffy, and add Mike into that list. We have almost 50 signups on TTE for this, and my guess is I'm hoping we'll hit the record audience that night for this channel, which is, we're close in some of these. I think this will be a fun time. I'm so honored to DM it. Plus, Tim is playing this character. You've probably seen this pic scrolling. This is Billy Master Crafter, and there's our figure of Nazim bin Khalifa. Thank you, Mike, for helping me develop this guy up. And oh my gosh, he's a wizard. He uses a longsword too. Really interesting.
Tim, I expect a full video from you. And also, Jay, have you figured out how to create water yet?
Oh my gosh! Don't get on Bill on that. We got that whole thing. We do, yeah.
I heard you guys talking about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Thursday or Sunday.
So, Mark Dean, I run a full. If you haven't seen one of my streams, it's all tabletop, miniatures, terrain. It's the whole shebang on that. So check one of the vids out. It's
the gaming basement. Every gamer wish they had. Yeah,
it is a blast.
Have to check it out.
1E, 2E, old school, and we crank it out with it's a very I know it's more of a tactical game than an RPG game. But there's a lot of RPG in it. It's a way we've played for 40 years. So. Josh, you will get what you asked for. Trust me. All right. Watch tomorrow night and you'll see what I'm talking about. All right. We're going to raid into this. I'm excited about this. Rise Up Against the Slave Lords. Jimmy Duffy's Praetor's Rejects, a brand new stream, all female cast. And he just showed me he showed me a teaser to this. This is what the real story is about what happened to the slavers. And this is a brand new stream. It premieres that night of Greyhawk Con, and then he's going to have it weekly. So I'm excited about that. It's going to be awesome. Sunday, I had a little change out. Brian couldn't DM, so I did this real quick. Welcome to Norwell Headhunters. It's level 2. I got all you viewers in playing, 7 of you. We can't wait to do that. There'll be an ode to Leonard Lakofka during the game. You'll know what that is when you see it. Sunday also, Blue Box's home game, Greyhawk Awakening, is 3 p.m. Wily Hobbit's game is in there at 4 p.m. Then finishing off the whole thing, the Ask the Expert show. Leonard, Gary, Alan Growy, David Leonard, Dennis Mulder, and Tetra with some other guests. Casey will be stopping in, and a couple others. It'll be a fun time, and that doesn't even count all the RPGs going on, right? We got 60-some events. Every Greyhawk Reborn event is sold out. There's 15 of them. So thank you and congrats to everyone who's participating. There's a couple games I'd like to see filled up more. If you haven't played in a game and you see, just sign up for it, man. You got time. You got 2 days still. So did I miss anything? I always miss something, except who to raid into tonight. I'm raiding into Will. Friday night, and then I'm hosting Carlos. So I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna go all outside the box. I'm gonna raid into Esports RPG, who runs a little bit of a, he runs a little bit of a, what do you call it? Oh my God, my brain just went nuts. See, it's getting, I'm so numb right now. Temple of Mental Evil. He's running a little bit of it. Yeah. So I don't know if he's doing that now, but we'll
if he's not, do Sly Flourish.
Sly Flourish is on too?
I don't know. You tell me. I'm just throwing names.
I don't see him out there. I don't see him up. I was shocked when he followed the other night.
I watched his
5e guy.
Yeah, he's a 5e
he's
guy.
got some great stuff. For
I've been talking to him. I've been talking to him behind the scenes too a little bit. And let's say have a great night. See you tomorrow night for my normal game. Trust me, it'll be another fun one. So, all right, setting up the raid.
Thanks again, Mark and Dean.
Thank you both
for joining us.
So
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it was
really appreciated. This was amazing to hear about Perrenland and Ratik.
Yeah.
We can't say more thank you anymore. It just was just such a great. I know the time frame difference is so hard, but
now you have the whole rest of the day.
Yes.
Like we all got to go to bed.
Hey, I am off from work until Monday, so I took off for this con. So let me read this in. Esports, setting it up.
Good night, everybody.
Yes.
Yep.
Prometheus, see you Sunday morning too. All right, here we go. Rating in 50. Great. Perfect. Great number. All right. See you tomorrow night. Did that work?
Yeah, it worked.
It did. I think our Australian gents left us.
Yeah, that's okay.
I didn't think they realized we could chat after the show ended.
Oh, are they did they crash?
No, I think they both.
No, I think they left. Yeah, Mark left first.
No, Esports. I got video is unavailable.
Okay. Well, chat was going, so.
Oh, they're on break. Okay, something like that.
Okay.
See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow night.